Oh, thanks so much. Really appreciate it.
You're very welcome.
Hi, how are you? How are you doing? John Fletcher. Scotty says. Good to see you. Good to see you.
Perfect. Yeah. Here, let me give you my card.
Here we go. At least you can have that.
Yeah.
Hey, how are you? I'm Scotty.
Scott,
Oh my goodness.
No, thank you.
What's going on? I knew you back when you didn't have a beard. Oh my God. Lord, mercy, we need to change your emails already. Wow.
How are you? Fancy meeting you.
Yeah, yeah. Still told the story of your parents and Jerry. Walk around on the hilltop. And there was a big old photograph in front of him.
Did it just fall out of the thing?
Jerry holding her older daughter. Yeah.
Absolutely. How are you? Okay.
It's a lot of
Oh my goodness. The first sale I ever made at KCLE, but it was a setup because Jack always says, okay, go call another company. Jack already sold it. He said, just tell John, yeah, I'll take that. So it was my feel good sale, but I really didn't make the sale.
Scott, you didn't hear it now?
I've been to the Holiday Express Hotel and we live in Godley. I've been in Johnson County since 2014.
Nice.
We're on the Valley End, so I'm not from the but I live in the area.
Yeah, nice.
And you live in Cleburne?
I do, yes. For about a year now. I've been here for 35. Yeah.
How do you like it?
I like it a lot. So far. Yeah, it's a quaint little town.
It's growing. Lots of stuff.
Lots of growing, yes.
There's a lot of neat things in Grapevine. I haven't been to that area in a long time.
Do what?
There's a lot of neat things over in Grapevine.
Oh, yeah. It's really exciting.
Yeah.
It's a fun place to live.
Yeah, I haven't been over there in a long time.
It was on my list of things to do.
Go back and get the amplifier. There's a reading. Yeah, I actually want to hear it. He
You said the Holiday Inn Express?
Yeah,
I know my family's giving you some business. So, yeah.
Do they come down and visit?
Yes. Pretty regularly.
What are their names?
Warlock.
Well, good. I'm glad they stay with us.
I was trying to pull it back up.
Well,
Maybe those guys will take the rest of you down as soon as we're There's a crack in his screen, and it looks like there's a giant crack on the wall. And I'm like, it's okay. I didn't do it.
I didn't do it.
We're breaking everything. We're just breaking it all.
That was my first thought.
Sam and some other
Oh, Terry, yeah. Thanks so much for letting me do this.
So glad you're here. Thank
You
you.
bet. Thanks for your leadership at the chamber.
Thank you.
It's great. You ready? Go ahead and roll with it.
Well, I'll get things started. I am Jerry Trish. I work at Grandview Bank, and Grandview Bank has been very happy to sponsor this business class series for a couple of years now. I'm sure we'll continue that sponsorship, but very glad that you all are here. Thankful that you're all here. I hope that you find this class very informational and rewarding. It helps you in your careers or whatever else you're here to do with it. And you know, Grandview Bank is a small community bank. We're up to 5 branches now. Just opened one in Burleson a couple of weeks ago. So we're slowly growing, trying to grow the right way. We're still very much a community bank and very much involved in this community. And so if I can help you with anything, please let me know. I'm right here behind Kroger. With that, I will hand it over to Mr. John Fletcher here.
Thanks so much, Jared. These guys at Grandview Bank are so wonderful. I've known Robert Stewart for, I guess, darn near forever. He was in high school band when I first knew him. And as we shopped at Stewart's Thrifty Supermarket. So it goes a couple years back. But anyway, so yeah. Once again, my name's John Fletcher. I'm a public relations consultant. Jared, thanks so much. Appreciate it. Feel free if you need to take a nap. It's not a problem. It's good. Maybe the donuts will help keep you awake a little bit. I do tend to go kind of fast. And so feel free at any point in time to go, I got a question or I have an example. Because if you got any, because it all ties together. Because one thing that's interesting, I'm not one of those speakers that does, these are the 3 points. Because I've got my 3 points with 18 more. You got 21 as you're going to see on your list here. So we're going to talk about a lot of ways to expand your influence. Things can help grow your business, can also help people respect you more. And there's all kinds of, some of these are little things that cost nothing. Some are things that cost a little bit. And so let's try to hit all these. First of all, I'm a connector. I love to meet people. I totally love it. I love to be in a social atmosphere, but I wasn't always that way. I was very shy growing up. I was one of the people that would stand in the corner and kind of, somebody would have to kind of pull me out. I don't know if you know people like that or not. But anyway, a good friend of mine, Jerry Casper, came by to say hi a few minutes ago. He was the original manager for Bell's department store more than a couple of years ago. And so we got to visit. We used to play golf together and go to Rexall Drug for coffee every morning with Bernie Stringer, who managed JCPenney's, and Bob Camp, who had Ben Franklin's. So anyway, a lot of fond memories from him in Cleburne. The interesting thing is it was never about golf. It was about the friendship. And I think that that's the big part about today's society is about building relationships. I know there's realtors in here and clergy and all kinds of other businesses. No matter what business you're in, relationships drive success. And if you're not doing that, I've got a really good client, Bill Shattuck, who owns a title company. He owns a Capital Title. He owns 4 or 5 finance companies, all kinds of things, like all these companies all related to real estate. He says the one thing that drives our business is relationships. And I fully believe in him with that. Matter of fact, the last time here, Molly Martin was here, and of course she was with the City of Keene Economic Development now, and by the way, she's a master of using social media, posting and commenting, and a great example for all of us. And she just got hired recently at the City of Joshua to be their Director of Economic Development. So neat things happen. The greatest connector I ever met was a guy named Peter Svensson. Any of y'all know him? Oh, he's a little bit of a character, isn't he? The thing is, now, I don't know if he's like this now, but what he was like when I knew him was, hey buddy, how you doing? And is it still the same way? And so, but he was in the music business, and so he was an independent record promoter, and I was running KCLE radio here in Cleburne, and then later KJNE radio in Waco. And so Peter said, oh, everybody in Nashville knows me. And yeah, he's one of those guys. Sure they do. They did. Everybody knew Peter, and everybody loved Peter. Peter was the most universal connector in the music business of anybody. And so anyway, if he ever tells you about how great he was as a promoter, he was just incredible. And it helped anytime that I could say to somebody, I was a friend of Peter Svensson, it just elevated my position with him. It was wonderful. Okay, let's talk about we're going to grow our influence. Tell me some ways we're going to grow our influence. I'm going to grow my influence by doing what? By being what? How are we going to do it? Don't look at the list yet.
By being available.
Well, I got 21 ideas. No.
By being available.
Being available.
Putting yourself in situations that you can meet people.
Absolutely. What else?
Volunteer.
Volunteer. That's it. We're going to talk about that in just a second. What are a couple others?
Generosity.
Generosity. That's right. Be generous. What else? One more. Somebody wake up.
Be friendly.
Be friendly. There you go. This is a good example. And so, some of them, as you look at it also, as you talk about it, being valuable, memorable, resourceful, and unselfish. Kind of ties to those right there. I am shooting video of this, so if I can send you a copy of it. If the video works, we'll check and find out. I don't use my iPad much, but we'll find out if it worked. So, plus there's a bunch of other bonus categories. Let me talk about being valuable. A friend of mine named Kerry Hobbs in Waco was the head of the Alumni Association for Texas Tech. It's a volunteer deal, and got zero pay. So one of those deals. And so he calls me up, and he said, we just hired Bobby Knight for the head basketball coach at Texas Tech. This was obviously about 10, 12, 15 years ago. And he said, I've gotten to meet him, and you need to help me. I said, well, what do you mean? He said, I was brought in to technically approve him. It was to bless him. I couldn't say we don't want him. And he said, but I got to know him, and so we went hunting. Bobby said, well, I know that you've got an airplane, and I've got a lease in North Dakota and South Dakota, so let's go on up there. So they did it, and Kerry comes back, and he said, the two things to know about Bobby Knight are that, number one, he has the highest GPA highest graduating rate of players in America for men's basketball. And number two, every guy that played for him wants his son to play for Bobby Knight. He said, that's all that I need to know. And he said, but as I talked to Coach Knight, he said, if anybody that I can get into Lubbock and tour the campus and see the city, they will sign with me. But the problem is there's a media bias about Lubbock, dry, desolate, West Texas, etc. And he said, and the two worst guys about it are your friends Hal and Steve on the morning show at WBAP. He said, so what are you going to do about it? And I said, I can set something up for you. He said, well, what's that? I said, I'll have them make a disparaging remark about Lubbock on a Friday. And then we'll have Coach Knight call them on a Monday and demand their presence at a basketball game. He said, well, I've got the plan. And he said, I can assure you from our end we can do that. So the key to the whole thing, surprises cannot be faked. So I called the station manager at WBAP. She approved my idea. I talked to the program director and promotions director. They agreed too. So I talked to everybody but Hal J. Hal's the main guy. Any of y'all listen to WBAP? Okay, boy, they were on a roll this morning, weren't they? They had, hey, would you sue me from the old comedy voices? So anyway, everybody knows about it but Hal, so they know to play along. So I called Hal's wife, Ann, and I said, this Saturday, a week from this Saturday, we need him to be available. So you need to tell him that your mother's going to be in town. He never spends any time with her, and so this Saturday is his Saturday with you and your mother. So she does it. And so anyway, on that Friday, they used to do characters back then. They had this character called Willie Landon, Fishing Guide to the Stars. And so he would always talk about, where are we going to go fishing? Then he'd make up names of crazy names of baits and stuff like that, and maybe even mention a couple of fishermen's names. And so they said, so where are we going to go? I said, Lubbock. And Hal tears him a new one. Lubbock, it's dry. There ain't no water in Lubbock. Why would you want to go fishing in Lubbock? He just tears Lubbock to pieces. Remember, Hal is not in on the deal. He's being egged on by Steve Lamb to do this. And so Hal is just burying himself. And so they do the deal. So on Monday morning, right as they're supposed to go to one of the comedy bits, Steve Lamb says, hey, we've got a call from a listener. And Hal says, we don't take listener calls. He says, you're going to want to take this one. He said, we don't take listener calls. He said, take the call. And so Hal picks up the phone. Hal, yeah, this is Bob Knight. He said, yeah, that's a pretty good Bobby Knight imitation. Hal, Bob Knight, Texas Tech. That is a pretty good imitation. Hal, Bob Knight, Texas Tech. This is Bob Knight, Texas Tech. Oh my gosh, I got Bobby Knight on the phone. Oh, Coach, what do I call you? You can call me whatever you want. Where's Willie? I said, what do you mean? He said, you guys were saying some really bad stuff on Friday about Lubbock and Texas, about Lubbock and our community. And he says, no, we weren't. And Steve says, yeah, you were. And then it just goes hilarious. And he says, look, guys like you don't understand what Lubbock's like, the charm of the town and all that. And he said, my wife and I, my family, we moved here. And we love Lubbock, we love Texas Tech. I'm sending a plane for you and your crew this Saturday. We're going to fly you out here for the Iowa State game, and you're going to be our guest. We're going to put you in a suite, and you're going to learn what Lubbock is all about, what Texas Tech's all about, and Red Raider basketball. So everybody's hoorah and everything on the air. It's great. Then they go into a commercial break, and Hal says, well, I can't go. He said, Ann's mom's coming to town. And Steve Lamb says, she ain't coming to town. He said, you're going to meet Bobby Knight. And so we go out there. And this is a real long story, but it tells the value of influence. Because I'm doing all this for free. I'm not getting paid by Texas Tech. Kerry Hobbs is not paying me. And so I'm doing this in part because, number one, I want to see if I can do it. And number two, it's just high on the cool factor. I'm getting to do something with Bobby Knight. And so anyway, we meet at Meacham Airport, and we fly up there. The athletic director and the city manager there, they minibus, they take us for a mini tour around Lubbock, then around the campus. We go to the United Spirit Arena. Game's going to start in about an hour. And so they said, okay, Coach Knight wants to come and see you guys. And he does, 5 minutes of stand-up comedy, but he's got a game going. He's kind of tense. He's got something kind of about to happen. But it was really pretty cool. They got their names on the video board and everything like that. Well, they win the game. And then Knight comes back, and we go downstairs into the bellows of the Coliseum, and Bobby Knight sits down on the sofa and does 45 minutes of sit-down comedy, and he was hilarious. The guys couldn't imagine. It couldn't have been any better. So they do that. We go to the airport. We each have a bottle of Estacado wine with our names on the labels and everything like that. We've all got autographed basketballs from Bobby Knight, or Bob Knight as he was then called. And so we get back. What happens on Monday? WBAP does a 4-hour show about Lubbock and Texas Tech and Bobby Knight. You can't buy that. The value of that, probably $50,000 to $60,000. Kerry Hobbs calls me and says, it can't get any better. The trustees, the chairman of the board, the chancellor, everybody's also thrilled. And I said, I can do it again in Houston. I said, what? I said, do it on KPRC in Houston, pull the same thing in another week or two. And we did. Same thing happened. They go and they spend probably only 2 hours the next Monday after that, but they're just talking about all this. Remember, I'm doing it for free. Doing it for free with no expectation of any return. I mean, I'm not getting anything from Texas Tech. I don't get a note from the chancellor, nothing. But I do have an autographed basketball from Bobby Knight. And then that's over, and I said, and they said, can't get any better. I said, I can do San Antonio. I said, season's over, but we'll do it next year. So we did San Antonio with WOAI radio, and their TV station came in with us. TV crew goes on the plane and does the whole thing. I mean, they get there and they do the whole thing. It's incredible. And so then they said, Knight says, well, I want to do Austin. I said, we don't do Austin. I said, we do cities where there's no Big 12 team. I said, because if there's a Big 12 team, I can tell you there's rabid fans in Austin. They will fry you on the radio. I said, you don't do it. I said, I'm not going to do that, so we didn't do it, because you have to know when the gig is up. You have to know when you've hit all that you can do, and you're sitting there trying to please them that one more time. You can't do it. So I knew when to stop. And that's what you look at when you do things like that. The next thing is being memorable. How can you be memorable? Well, one way is that you tear down the screen. And that's something that happens, and I'm partially responsible for that. And sorry about that, Stacy. It's part of who I am. But I decided I was really involved in Colleyville and the Hearst Euless Bedford Chambers of Commerce, and I wanted to get involved with the South Lake Chamber of Commerce. It's an affluent community. People spend pretty good money. They're very successful businesses. So I decided to join the chamber, and I want to sponsor a chamber luncheon. Well, you get about a 4-minute talk as part of your sponsorship. And so, I mean, I go in there, I know 3 people, but I know the chamber exec, a couple, that's it. I mean, they're all total strangers. So how do I get these people's attention for them to validate who I am, therefore make myself memorable? So I had a video produced. I used Brian Estridge, the morning show guy at WBAP with Hal, and I had him do the voiceover, and it was all about, do you want this Fletch or that Fletch? And that Fletch was Chevy Chase from the movie Fletch, and all these crazy costumes and everything. So we're talking about, if you want to stand out publicity-wise, do you want this guy, and we're showing him doing something stupid, like skating with the Hare Krishna stuff, skating on the boardwalk, or do you want this Fletch? And it shows me doing something. Well, at the end of the 4 minutes, everything's gone great, and at the end of the luncheon, I got 4 new clients. 4 people walk up to me and hire me on the spot right then. I'm going, that's a good video. I was hoping to get 1. but that happened. So I made myself memorable. So let's talk about what are some things that y'all are giving for Christmas gifts for your clients, for your customers. What are some things, for example, you see people doing, I have a client yesterday who was giving branded AirPods. The nice ones, not the cheap $19 ones. What are some things that y'all are giving or receiving as Christmas gifts for business? Not all at once.
Well, I'm giving something pretty small, actually. I'm giving some calendars, but they're really a very nice black and white calendar.
Okay.
And I'm getting really good response from
That's great.
what they're getting.
Yeah, that's great. What are some other things that y'all give receive?
We give really nice, coffee mugs.
Okay.
About 16 ounce. They're really, really pretty, very stylish. I've been asked for getting a dozen of them at a time.
There you go.
They say,
Okay.
I love this, give me 6.
Sure, and some people they do, candy jars, gift boxes of cookies, whatever. Let me give you an idea on something. And I think those are a great start. So don't let me take away from that. In my opinion, if I'm willing to spend the money to do it, if I'm gonna do a doodad, I want something that nobody else has one just like it. I don't want somebody to say, "Oh, thank God for you giving me the letter opener last year. I hope you give me another one this year." Never had that happen. So I have had fantasy ice cream made. I come to Justin and I say, "Justin, think back when you're 10 years old. What's a flavor of ice cream that's no longer available? That you used to go to Ashburn's or whoever would be here at the time. You used to go to Cleburne Drug and they would have at the soda fountain, they had a certain kind of chocolate chip or whatever it might have been." And so I said, now think also of any other flavors you had along the way. Now I'm going to make a greatest hits. So if you were to say, here, this one right here was cookie dough, caramel, coconut, almond slivers.
Oh, wow.
So I have 40 different clients and they're getting 40 different flavors. Each one is customized for each person. And so this person likes coconut, this one hates it, this one likes caramel, that one doesn't. A lot of them like to have the crunchy cone crushed up in it. And so 40 people, 40 different ones. Now, it's not cheap. And then plus for my clients that are out in West Texas, I got to ship them my dry ice. So yeah, they're very good client. I'm spending $100 to get it out there, not counting the ice cream. So, but that's an example, and here you can pass around and just look at it. But that's just.
Where's an ice cream?
Oh, well, actually, okay, now you're doing the surprise. We're gonna, sorry, watch out. Uh-oh, first the screen. What's next? Okay. I'm sorry, Stacy. It happens. I'm a carrier of disaster. We're gonna do a drawing. We're gonna do a drawing. If y'all did they give their business cards to you? If you didn't, everybody can put your business card out because we're going to do a drawing, and at the end, one person is going to get the fantasy ice cream of your choice. Now, you can either choose for it to be for you, or you can go to one of your customers or clients and say, "Hey, this crazy guy said he's going to do something, and I'm going to give that ice cream to you. What are your favorite flavors?" And so up to 4 different, I need to know what the base is. Do you want chocolate? You want vanilla? You want cookies and cream? Do you want chocolate mint? Whatever you want. And then up to 3 mix-ins, you tell me what they are. I've had people do gummy bears. I've had somebody do Chardonnay, which I thought was kind of weird, but he liked it. And so anyway, so put your business card. Somebody's going to get this either for yourself or else it's going to be for you to give to somebody. So anyway, so that's something that works. And so then you go, but what about somebody who's lactose intolerant, John? What do you do for them? I do nuts and bolts. And I make those myself, by the way. Because I want to personalize these, and if I went and got nuts and bolts somewhere else that I could just go get a mix, go and buy it at Walgreens, it's not that special. But when I made it myself with my grandmother's recipe, that's a special deal. And then this year, a client said, "I'm not into nuts and bolts." And I said, "Well, you know what I made at Thanksgiving? I made monkey bread. Any of y'all have monkey bread before? Do you do it with the cinnamon and the brown sugar? It's decadent. I've got 2 clients who have now opted for monkey bread. And so I'm going to be doing it, and I make that myself. By the way, if you say, "Well, but that big bundt pan is so big, they're not going to eat it all," you go to Amazon or wherever you want to go, and you can get 4 of the miniature bundt cans for $17. And that's what I did. So anyway, I'm going to be making that for the folks. So anyway, I've got one client who doesn't like ice cream. I get him exotic fruits. He's from Pakistan. And so if it's something that you look at in Central Market or you look at in Market Street, and it's got almost like little antlers on it and stuff, I'm getting that stuff for him. Passion fruit, he loves that kind of stuff. The next thing is, this relates not to Cleburne, being resourceful. And in Waco, when we moved to put the radio station on the air in Waco, we noticed that Coca-Cola had a promotion. The promotion was they would find one radio station, and they did this in every market, and they would put that radio station's logo on top of all the Coke cans in that market. And so in Waco, it was 10 million Coca-Cola cans. And so I wanted to be on that. Well, our station was out of Hillsboro, and we're moving it into Waco. So we didn't really have a signal in Waco, so I'm sitting there trying to make a sales pitch in November, and we're not going to be on the air until March. And so somebody's got to kind of take it on faith. And part of this, I was, watch out, don't do it. Anyway, I have the gift of glowing well. Anyway, so I go to, we did a promotion here in Cleburne in one summer and moved Coca-Cola from number 3 to number 1. They were behind Dr. Pepper and Pepsi. And so the guys from Coca-Cola said, whatever we can ever do for you, we'll do. You let us know how we can help you. So I called the guy up in Dallas, or in Fort Worth, and I said, well, you told me you'd help me. I want to be on the 10 million Coca-Cola cans in Waco. He said, well, that's a taller order than you. I thought you maybe wanted a few cases of Coke or something like that, Rangers tickets, But I'll tell you what I'll do. I will get you a meeting with the manager for Waco. If you can sell him and sell the decision makers, you've got my blessing. And you do. There's 5 of us. You've got my vote already. And so going and I'm saying, well, the WACO radio at the time was now Waco 100. They had been their promotional partner for 4 or 5 years, had their name on the cans every year. Because everybody knew it was a given, it was going to be an automatic renewal, the other radio station didn't even make a proposal. Well, WACO figured, well, we've had this deal for 5 years, we're not going to give you much of anything. And so here we are, we're going to come in with a 100,000 watt FM station, and we're going to give you a commercial and every hour, whatever brands you want, Coke, Sprite, you name it, and we're going to do all these other things for you, and we're going to put you on our TV commercials, and we're going to do all sorts of stuff. And so all of a sudden, but the key was this, and you have to be willing to humble yourself sometimes. So I go in to see the guy in Waco, the cold November day, and I got a coat on, and I take it off, and he says, oh my gosh, you're wearing a Coca-Cola route salesman's outfit. And I was. I had the shirt, I had the pants and everything, because I was the same size back then as Louis Palafox, Sr., who ran the Coca-Cola plant here. And so he loaned me an outfit just for that deal. Well, I didn't know at the time there was no internet, and but the guy that I was meeting with was a theater major. He thought this was incredible. He thought this was great. So we get talking, and I said, here's what we'll do to promote, and something like that. So anyway, we're in the hunt, but still, you're going to go with you're going to go with WACO. You have to. It's the established station, even though they're not giving you much exposure. But there's a point at which they started getting mad at him because this other station became arrogant. And the more that we met, the more we were given. And so finally, the day they're making the decision, there's 5 decision makers, 1 in Waco, 2 in Dallas, 2 in Fort Worth. And so these guys get to the plant at 5 a.m. Coca-Cola guys are serious. And so they get there at 5 a.m. So at 5 a.m., I've got my sales manager in Waco meeting with the guy in Waco, and we mock up, I should have brought him, I'm sorry I didn't, but we mocked up with cardboard a composite 6-pack of Coke, Diet Coke, Tab was back then, Sprite, Orange, drink whatever it was, and whatever the 6th one was, Fresca. And so we had our call letters on the deal, already had the artwork done, and said, just so you guys don't have to worry about calling the designer, so you can go straight to the printer today, here it is. And so they loved that. So I delivered that to the 4 guys in Dallas, and the 2 guys in Dallas, 2 guys in Fort Worth, the guy in Waco. They called me that afternoon, they said, there's no way we can justify what we're about to tell you. We're going with y'all. And you're not even on the air in Waco yet. And so we go on the air, and the rating period is 12 weeks long. And so you can get the numbers in 2-week increments. So with the 12-week average, we're like number 4 in the market. But with the last 2 weeks, we're number 2 in the market. And we're like 14 weeks old. And it was all because of Coca-Cola. It was all because I didn't mind putting myself in a Coca-Cola route salesman's outfit, making myself, as friends said, making a fool of yourself. So I don't have a problem. If I get on top of 10 million Coke cans, I think it's a pretty good decision. So anyway, so I did that. Other things that I've done, HEB had its 100th anniversary. And so I brought them the world's largest ultimate smoker and grill. Y'all might have seen that when it was here. It's 53 feet long, and you can do 500 hot dogs at a time, or 200 hamburgers. You can do like 20 turkeys at a time. And it's just a monster deal. And so HEB buys buy 60 dates for $300,000. I'm going, that's all the money in the world. And then I find out that there's 5 advertising positions, pole banners that you can put on there. They sold each of those pole banners for $250,000 to Coca-Cola, ConAgra, and whoever the other guys are. They netted $950,000 profit off a $300,000 investment. HEB guys are smart. And so anyway, but they took it all across the state. So then I called them the next week and I said, you know, I went to the NASCAR race in Bristol, Tennessee. Food City has the world's largest ultimate grocery cart. And I can get that for you. It's exclusive per state. There's no Food City here in Texas. And I've checked and nobody's got it for Texas. No, we're not interested. I called them next week. I said, you got your parades going on, your 100th anniversary. You sure you don't want it? Nah, we don't want to do it. They called me the next week. You got to have it in 10 days. What? Get it done. It's coming in from St. Louis. Get it done. And they leased it for 4 years. Then they built their own. The one that you see now, whenever they use it for parades, instead of being the silvery like a real live grocery cart, it's more of a gunmetal gray. It's a darker gray. It's got thicker pipes, but it's Chevy 454 engine, and it will haul. I have to tell you, when they delivered it to San Antonio, and I met the guy down there, he said it'll go 30 miles an hour forward, and it'll go 30 miles an hour backwards. I said, I don't want to go 30, and he said, here, how can I give you a ride? And so he's taking me 30 miles an hour forward, and I mean, it's 8 feet wide, 12 feet tall, 15 feet long, Chevy 454 engine. And so, I mean, it's throttled down, obviously, a lot, but still, I'm screaming going forward, and then he puts it in reverse at 20, and he's doing donuts. And I'm sitting there going, I'm going to die right here, but you know, and I hadn't got my check yet. And so, but you know, it happened. But that made me valuable to HEB, and so, and that made them very valuable to other people. Another thing is, the same guy who was doing contract work that did the signage sales for Baylor University also did it for Waco ISD, the football stadiums. Well, back in those days, now they got all the digital signs, but they remember those billboards, those signs, and they would be like a tri-vision, and so you'd have one side, then it would flip, and it would be HEB, it would flip to Pizza Hut, flip again, be to Wendy's. So I'm talking to the guy. He's a real good friend of mine, and I said, okay, as I sign my deal with you, because it's not digital, it's a block rotating. I want whenever you turn it off, because I know you have soccer games at the place and all that, but you only run the scoreboard with everything going around for the football games. He said, right. And I said, I want in my contract that whenever the game is not going on, that you lock HEB as one of the panels. And I negotiated the same thing for Pizza Hut, the same thing for Wendy's, my other clients. And he said, I knew somebody was going to figure that out. I just didn't think it would be you. But it was great exposure. That grew my influence with Wendy's, Pizza Hut, and HEB because I was finding ways to look out for them. And it was not something that was on the menu to be sold. You have to look for things, and when you find them, then you go, that was pretty good that I did that. Alan Samuels was the car dealer. He passed away a year and a half ago, and he was my client in Waco. And so, oh bless you, his favorite restaurant was Vito's Italian Food on Valley Mills Drive. And so I went to see Alan one day in his office. We officed in the same building, and I said, for your anniversary, for you and Donna, I'm going to give you your own dinner at Vito's. He said, well, Fletcher, that's nice, but we go there all the time. I don't see how that's that special. I said, he's cooking in your home, in your kitchen. He said, what? I said, he's going to come in your kitchen. He's going to do his famous osso buco in your kitchen and be talking to you all the whole time, sitting there sipping wine. He said, well, that is cool. And I said, it's not that Alan could not afford that. It's he never knew it was available. So how many times can you do a favor for somebody because you know somebody that has the world's best barbecue, the best ribs, or this or that you can do a little favor for somebody because they never knew it was available. And that's part of what you want to be looking for. If you look at, any of y'all have USA Today app on your phones? If you look at it and you scroll down a little bit on the home page, you're going to find 2 articles from the Waxahachie Daily Light on USA Today because that guy knows somebody somehow. Because that guy has influence. Every single day, you look at your app on USA Today, you scroll down to about the second set of stories just in from the Waxahachie Daily Light. Now, that's somebody with influence. You want to find out how that guy did that. But that's now probably that paper's owned by Gannett, who owns USA Today. But still, not every paper, as a matter of fact, none, have their stories on there on a regular basis, except for Waxahachie, Texas. So that's an example of having influence. Also unselfish. Somebody talked about volunteering. One of the smartest things that I think I've done, and I didn't invent it, somebody told me to do it, and they said, you need to get in charge of booking speakers for your Rotary Club or booking them for a Chamber of Commerce. Well, why do I want to do that? Because all of a sudden people will return your calls who would not have normally returned your calls. I'm calling to let you know that the Fort Worth Rotary Club, which the first time I started doing it, was one of the top 5 in the world. And so I'd like to have you come speak to one of the top 5 Rotary clubs in the world. Would you like to do that? And so, they return your call when you're doing that. They'll also return your call when you're booking a speaker for your Chamber of Commerce event. And if your Kiwanis or Rotary or Lions Club or Altruista Club is pretty good size, they're going to return your call. And then you get involved in your trade organizations. I was on the board of the Country Radio Seminar in Nashville because one of my mentors was kind enough to put me on that. I didn't get on there because of my own merits. I got on there because I knew somebody. And so anyway, I said, put me in charge of speakers. And so I'm sitting there calling the #1 radio buyer for advertising in America. He was in Dallas, going to marry Spiegel. I have access to this guy now who didn't know who I was 5 minutes earlier. And so as you're booking speakers, your circle of influence, we've had Jason McCann. You know those variable desks, the ones that go up and down? It's called Vary, become a Vary desk, and it's called Vary now, they rebranded. Well, anyway, I've had him speak because I went to a luncheon and he was speaking. And I walked up to him and I said, man, you're so fascinating. I have nothing to sell you. I would just like to get to know you better. Do you do other speaking engagements? Yeah, I do. And so anyway, we had just stayed in touch, a lot of it on LinkedIn. And so we do that, but we talk and everything, and it just it's helped me to be able to get him. So being the person for the speakers is great. Just yesterday was probably my greatest hits guy, the top cybersecurity guy from the FBI. I have a client that's in the cybersecurity business. He's an IT and cyber company, and so we just started working together back in May, and I said, let me get you into a public speaking role. And so the business press wanted to do a cybersecurity deal. And so they said, we'll take your guy if you can bring somebody really powerful with him so that we can put a brand name. Well, the boss for the Dallas FBI office, the agent in charge, had spoken to an organization I'm a member of 2 years earlier. So I called him, but he wasn't available. And he said, but I'm not the cyber guy anyway. You want Brett Leatherman. So he introduces me to Brett. I call Brett, and Brett comes and does the webinar. Yesterday marked the 5th time that I've had Brett partner with this guy on an event. This has gotten so popular that the Fort Worth Business Press gave my guy the Business Advocacy Award on December 1st because he has taken it upon himself to make people aware of how serious cybersecurity is. But this is my gift to you right here. Please be aware, this is straight from the FBI yesterday. From December 23rd, if you don't remember anything today, remember this, especially if with your business. From December 23rd to January 3rd is go time for all cyber hackers. Because your IT folks are gone for the holidays. Because your company says, we've got use it or lose it vacation. And so your cyber guy says, well, I got 10 days left of vacation. I'm gone. And so all of a sudden, all those hacks, well, the guy was talking to us yesterday. He said, in the last 5 minutes, I've had 2 hacks attempted on my phone. He said, because he has a log that he keeps. Once again, he carries 2 phones. And yes, I did get to touch one of his phones, so I may be in trouble. But anyway, he said, I got 2 of them in the last 5 minutes. He said, I can assure you, because all of these attacks, they're automated. Don't think of some kid in the basement of his grandma's house eating Skittles and drinking Yoo-Hoo. That's not who's doing this. These are sophisticated people. They've got people that are curating. They've got people that are working on lists. They got this and that. And the other thing that the guy talked about yesterday is once you get ransomed and you pay, you go on a list to all the other hackers. And when you think it's all over because you finally paid and you're done, you just got started. And so when you're lazy on your cybersecurity at your real estate office or whatever kind of company that you've got, the church, anywhere, you're compromising everybody that emails you. You got all kinds of things that can be put at risk. The other thing when you're doing speakers, if you don't have to know the great speakers, but if you know somebody who knows the speaker. I happen to have a connection with Scott Murray, the former sports guy from Channel 5. And Scott has been a great friend, and what Scott does is in the last 3 years, he's gotten me Drew Pearson, He's got me Bob Lilly. He's got me Randy White at prices that I could not have gotten. And so while Scott never asked for anything, I always make sure I give him a $300 gift card to his favorite restaurant, because especially if I'm dealing with something that has a budget to pay for these things, but even if they don't have a budget for that, I'll pay the $300 because Scott Murray is a valuable resource for me, and I want to have that resource, and it's worth that $300. And so once again, you find somebody that they're helping you a lot, you work on that, but there's ways to get it done. Also, you've got to want to be willing to be uncomfortable. I know you'll get that going, well, how does uncomfortable work? Well, I was at TCU at a social event. It was a mixer, and the girl that had the potential to become the love of my life was over there talking to somebody. So I'm approaching from the side. Her name was Jenny. And so anyway, and I go, and nothing came out. Now I'm to her side, so she's not seeing me make a fool of myself. That's the only. But a couple of my friends were watching the deal and just rolling over laughing. And I go, and then I did, and I just turned around and walked away. So the guys would go, here goes Fletcher. Fletcher knows how to speak to girls. Uppity, uppity. And so anyway, but so I was so shy. But I became committed to solve that. So as soon as I graduated from TCU, I took the Dale Carnegie course. And it totally changed my life, because all of a sudden, I felt good about speaking in front of a crowd. I didn't feel that I had to read every word. You know, with Carnegie class, you can have some bullet points, but you can't stand up and, I want to tell you how important it is for me. You've got to tell the story. And so it was incredible for me to be taking the Dale Carnegie course. And it sure, if I could have had that before, Jenny might have been my bride. You never can tell. You don't know what she missed out on. And but back to Coca-Cola, being the route salesman was definitely uncomfortable. I was not a theater major, and so and I haven't always done it right. At KJNE in Waco, we were the top-rated station in the market, and so we wanted to. The biggest prestige for a radio station is to be a Billboard magazine reporting station. It's not as big now as it used to be because of the consolidation of the industry, but back then, they had a panel of like 100 country radio stations. And our playlist determined the charts. Who's moving up, who's moving back. And so we had been talking with the guy from Billboard magazine, and so he said, well, I'll be at the country radio seminar in Nashville. I know that you're going to be there. He said, my plane leaves at 10:15 or I'll leave the hotel at 10:15 on that Monday to get back to LA. So why don't you meet me in the lobby at 10:15? So I get to the lobby at 10 o'clock, and I kind of remember what he looked like, but not totally. So I'm just sitting there as if I'm going to wait. I mean, the least I should have done is hold up a card that had the guy's name and, hey, I'm the Fletch. Didn't do that. So I'm just sitting there like I'm going to wait for him to come see me. He doesn't know who I am. I'm not a big, prominent person in the broadcast industry at the time. And so, but what should I have done? What's a solution that I could have done to get to him? It kicks me in the tail now that I don't think of this. What is something I could have done?
Introduce yourself to everybody in the lobby.
That's one way to do it. The other thing to do is to go have him paged. That's a no-brainer. And John Boyd did not do that. So it took us an extra 6 months to track that guy down again and to become a reporting station. We lost all these benefits that we would have had because I was shy and didn't know how to do it. And because it's one thing to be with somebody that you kind of know, but with somebody that you've never met and you're trying to impress them and all that, I just totally blew it. So you've just got to be able to you got to think, what are my solutions? What makes it all work? The other thing that you look at doing is know something you're not supposed to know. I remember going to a seminar and that was one of the topics. Know what you're not supposed to know. And so I'm asking the guy, what's an example? He says, okay, Justin, you can appreciate this because of your family experience in the car business. They said, know what service absorption is for a car dealership. And they start talking. Anybody here been in the car business at all? Okay, service absorption is the percentage of the dealership's fixed expenses that are covered by the profitable operations of the service department. So a good dealer, an average dealership covers 70% of its expenses through the profits of the service department. Or a good one does 80%, exceptional does 90%, very few do 95 to 100%. And so I'm talking to Clint Forrest Chevrolet, and I said, just out of curiosity, I just worked it into the conversation. I wasn't saying, hey, I heard this from seminar. I wanted to act smart. I just don't knock that down. And so I wanted to have some fun. So I said, so just out of curiosity, what's your service absorption rate? And he goes, what? I said, my service absorption rate. He said, you're not supposed to know about that. I said, well, sure. I said, my job is to know more about your business for me to be more effective for you. I just made it sound so routine. And he said, we're 82%. I mean, he knew it right there. Because that's a number that every car dealer knows. Every one of them knows that number. And so then we would have deeper conversations about the car business because it was obvious that I knew more. Dr. Pepper educated me to the fact there's a term called golden cases. And you go, that's weird. What is a golden case? Let's say, I'm just going to make up a number here. Let's say that in Dallas-Fort Worth in a month, that Dr. Pepper's going to sell 10 million cases. So they allocate all their expenses based on 10 million cases. That means there's a percentage of the general administrative, the leases on all the trucks, ownership of all the properties, the insurance, everything like that's all factored in as a percentage on those 10 million cases. On the 10 million first case, there's no general administrative. There's no truck expense. There's no nothing because those have all been knocked out. So any case over 10 million is a golden case because it's exponentially more profitable. So when I'm talking to a guy at a soft drink company or at HEB about the golden cases, they know exactly what I'm talking about. They just didn't think that I knew what I was talking about, that I would know what it was. That helps them see me more influentially. So what are the things that you can be doing like that? So know the things you're not supposed to know. Be a giver. You talked about that, being volunteer, being generous. Ask people. There's a guy named Bill Hurlbut who was a board member of the HEB, Hearst Julius Bedford Chamber of Commerce. And the first thing that he would ask somebody is, so tell me who can I introduce you to and how can I help you? So he didn't ask, how can I sell you insurance? What he asked was, how can I help you? How can I show you value of this chamber? Every Chamber of Commerce needs to consider themselves from the perspective that what if everybody here is a member of 2 or 3 chambers and they had to drop one? How am I bulletproof? What am I doing to make sure that I'm the one that stays and that the other chamber goes away? And that's what you have to be looking at if they're doing business with 2 people in my business category. How can I make myself so valuable that the other person loses and I stay? That's a very important thing to be looking at. So anyway, I gave away a copy of this book. Y'all can pass it around. It's called The Go-Giver. And I sponsored an HEB Chamber luncheon. 120 people there. I bought 120 books and gave them away because I want people to see me as a giver. And so I'm giving, and so I did my 4-minute talk was about giving. And I said, I'm actually giving each of y'all a copy of this book. So it helps to define my brand, who I am. But now I better be giving to nonprofits. I better be giving my time to this and to that. You've got to kind of follow up. You can't just say, here's a Go-Giver book, but don't ask me to do anything. So you got to think about what you want to do. I'm a big fan. Any of y'all heard of the God Wink books, When God Winks at You? A guy named Squire Rushnell. I buy them 30 to 50 at a time. Because there'll be times I'll be talking to somebody and I'll go, you need a book. And I've got just the book for you. And because these are very encouraging, very uplifting. And so when you're doing that and people see you as a giver and not asking for stuff all the time, but you're giving, it changes their impression of you. There's a guy named Bernard Rappaport in Waco. He's passed away now, but he was a tennis player, and so he had owned American Income Life Insurance Company, and he sold it for like $425 million. He did pretty well. Owned part of a bank and was chairman of the Board of Regents at University of Texas and led the last 2 fundraising drives at MD Anderson. Big time guy. And so when he played doubles in tennis every Saturday and Sunday morning. And so this one time, one of the guys couldn't make it. And so I had played in college at TCU before my chest fell. And so, a friend of mine who was his admin assistant called me and asked if I wanted to fill in. I said, sure. So we play, and so Rappaport, he's like 82 at the time. And he couldn't move real well, and he had a foot that was broken. The car had run over it when he was a kid. So he could shuffle 300, didn't knock anything down. He could shuffle about like that, and that was it. But he couldn't run over here to get the ball and run back. That's not going to happen. So anyway, we're playing, and he's just awful that day. I mean, he's just terrible. And he says, I'm so sorry you guys come out here every day. Or you come out here on the weekend to play with me, and I mean, it couldn't be enjoyable for y'all. It certainly was not enjoyable for me. I think I'm going to quit doing this. And sometimes it's the kid just wanting to pal it, And so I'm sitting down next to him, and people call him B. I mean, he's a huge philanthropist. And so I asked him, did you used to be good? He said, I used to be really good. I said, well, I hate to ask the question that directly. And I said, but this is what I do. just trying to watch the glare. But anyway, so I said, well, I'll tell you what, he played tennis every day, Monday through Friday, with Dave Campbell, who just passed away this last week, Dave Campbell Football Magazine. And so they were best friends. And so he played with Dave Monday through Friday. Well, the problem was, all that Dave had to do to win a point was hit the ball 5 feet from B, because B couldn't get past, couldn't get there. He could shuffle 2 or 3 steps, and that was it. So anyway, I said, well, I've got a plan for you. I said, because they played at 9 in the morning on Saturday, Sunday, but he and Dave played at 6 in the morning on weekdays. I said, here's the plan. You tell Dave to take the week off, and you and I will play tennis Monday through Friday, and on Saturday you'll be beating him. I said, what? I said, you'll be beating Dave Campbell on Saturday in doubles if you'll come, and I'll come join you at 6 o'clock in the morning, Monday through Friday. And so he said, Dave, you got the week off. I'll see you next Saturday. He says, so what are you going to do? I said, just show up. So I got a bucket of balls from the tennis pro, and I said, the first thing is, you're too afraid of losing to Dave Campbell. You're not trying to win, you're trying not to lose. And when you have a fear of losing, it changes the perspective of everything. I said, you've got to start playing and have fun. The score means nothing. Your wife, Audrey, is not going to divorce you if you say, Dave beat me again. No, but the fact is, if you come home smiling and say, you should have seen that backhand down the line that I hit, it was incredible. If you got that one shot you can talk about. And I said, so we're going to start with this. So I had the bucket of balls, and I said, I want you to see what it feels like not to care where the ball goes. So I want you to take these first 5 balls, I want you to fly them over the fence onto the golf course. I said, what? I said, I want you to see what it feels like. And so he does that, and he goes, man, that feels good. And I said, now start reining it in, inside the fence, and into this, and then into the court. Well, on that Monday, the most balls in a row he could hit without missing a shot was 3. On Friday, it was 28. And because I said, you've got to stop caring about winning and losing. Winning means that you had fun, and that you had one shot to talk about. And so if you look at it that way, it changes everything. And so anyway, we play Saturday, and we get out there, and so the standard protocol with these guys was Dave's on this side, and Rappaport's on this side, and whoever their partners are, once they get into a rally, there's no cutting across and poaching. You let those 2 guys, you're a wooden Indian standing there. And so, but that's what it was, but that was wonderful. I was glad to do it. So anyway, so he and Dave are rallying back and forth. Remember, Dave's used to him missing like on the 2nd or 3rd shot. It's 8 or 9 shots in. Dave can't figure out what's going on. And then finally, Rappaport slithers a shot down the line for a winner, and Dave drops his racket and says, what the heck's going on? And he said, Fletcher created a monster. I said, I didn't teach him anything new. I said, he had it inside him the whole time. All that I did was just tell him to stop caring. That's all that I told him. And so he was the highest profile person in Waco. And how good did it feel me to go into a restaurant and for Bernard Rappaport to say to people, this is the man that saved my life. That's how he described me, as the man who saved his. I didn't save his life, but he kept asking me, why would you be doing this for me? I said, well, you give all this money to all these causes. You have your own academy. You got all kinds of things. You give money to the Nation of Israel, to the University of Texas, to all kinds of places. And can't somebody finally do something for you without asking for anything? That's what you do every day. Isn't it fair for you to have a return of that? I'm just doing that. And I've got to tell you, I got more out of that by asking for nothing. And then by this time, toward the end, I was living in Waco. So, I would get up and drive there to be, if I was on a weekday, if Dave couldn't play, I'm there at 6 in the morning and then driving back to Waco. And, or else I'm doing the 9:30 in the morning match, which is a whole lot easier for getting up. But he said, well, aren't you going to stand here and do something? No, so I'm just turning right back around. I came here to play tennis with you. Got to tell you, when you're sitting out, he better not see me at HEB shopping right after that. I better be telling the truth about that. But I'll tell you, that gave me great value with him. And so that's an example of being a giver of your time and your resources. Also, when he couldn't play tennis due to his age, he had fallen and broken his shoulder, his collarbone. I got him a Wii Fit tennis game and took it to his office so he could sit at his desk and play tennis on the TV monitor. He's just a neat guy. It's little things like that. Didn't cost much of anything to do that. It cost my time primarily. But the fact is, imagine who the most influential person is in town. Maybe any of the top 2 or 3. Maybe it's somebody that you think, this is the person that I want to join my church. This is the person that I want to be involved. I want them to consider me sincerely as a realtor. I want whatever the deal might be. And if you went to the country club, or you went to the restaurant, the big race restaurant, and they stood up and they said, I got to tell you, so and so's here. They're my best friend. You guys, you got to love them. You can't get that kind of advertising. You can't buy that kind of stuff. The next part is being proactive in giving. It's one thing to give because you were shamed into giving it. It's another thing to do it proactively. I was reading the other day that Euless, Texas was named the #1 place in America to live by the New York Times. Actually, 6 or 7 of the top 10 were in North Texas. And so it's awfully good. And so my friend Linda Martin's the mayor of Euless. So I called her up and I said, obviously you've seen this. And I said, I can probably persuade the Fort Worth Business Press to write a story about this. She said, well, let's do it. So then I called the editor of the Business Press. He said, well, I'm really tied up. I said, well, if I write it for you, will you let me do it? I said, sure. So I wrote it for him, got her to approve it, made a couple tweaks, sent it in. I didn't make a dime out of that. But I reinforced my friendship and my relationship with the mayor of Euless, the best place in America to live. And so then she said, well, maybe you can come see me on Saturday. We're having the mayor's bell ringing challenge for Salvation Army. And so I'm going to be at the Kroger from 11:30 to 12 on Saturday. And I said, you might want to do what I saw done at Market Street in Colleyville a couple of weeks ago, right at Thanksgiving. A guy was playing saxophone Christmas music. I said, you're too clever and fun just to stand there and ring a bell. Imagine if you had some of the people from the band from Euless Trinity High School. And so I went up there. So I drove from Arlington to Euless just to go give her money. And she said, let me show you my band. And they were playing Christmas music. And so she said, thanks for the idea. So I'm growing my friendship and my relationship with the mayor just because I like her. I mean, my fiance and I openly call her our favorite mayor. And so she knows it, and she calls me, and she says, you're my favorite John Fletcher. And I hope I am. And not a whole lot of them. But anyway, but you do something like that. Also, you meet people with no ulterior motive. Do something to help somebody, and that there's once again, the whole deal for the Texas Tech Bobby Knight, there was nothing in it for me. And I just did it. Let me give you the rest of the story on that real quick, though. So fast forward 5 years later, and Hobbs Spine Fibers is growing. And who engages my services over a 3-year period for $132,000? But that got people, she was down there taking a nap. She looked up for $132,000. But the fact is, his way to pay me back, he was sitting there probably wanting to see time and time again, am I going to bring that up in conversations again that you own? Never brought it up ever again. Matter of fact, and this is another benefit of being a connector. And once we all know people like this, it's not just me, and you have to understand, any of y'all can do this. There's little favors you can do for people. So Carrie's son becomes president of the company. They sell into this other company, and he becomes the president of the company. Well, he loves ranch rodeo at the Fort Worth Stock Show and Rodeo. Not the regular rodeo, ranch rodeo. Any of y'all ever been to ranch rodeo? It's a different kind of animal, literally. But it's fun and it's fast, and if you're into ranch rodeo, I mean, that's like the world champion. That's the big one. So anyway, Larry is so excited he gets to go every year, and then he's involved with what's called the Ranching and Heritage Center at Texas Tech. Well, the guy who's the #2 guy at the Fort Worth Rodeo, I won't mention the name, leaves Fort Worth and goes and takes that job, and it just doesn't work out. And Larry's on the board that has to vote to disengage the guy. And so the first thing that the guy does when he gets hired back to the Fort Worth Rodeo is cancel Larry's tickets to the Ranch Rodeo. First thing that he does. I would have thought he would try to do something big, cancel Larry's tickets, and they weren't even good tickets. They were up in the middle of the stands. Will Rogers, not the Dickies, I'm talking this is Will Rogers, way up there, and he said, I just want to be in the building for that. Now here's where God comes in. This is the God wing. One of my clients was Mack Churchill, the Acura dealer. Mack has sold his dealership. But Mack was talking to me one day and he said, if you ever want to go to the rodeo, I've got pretty good tickets. He said, matter of fact, why don't you and Rebecca come with Lujo and me? And so, sure, so I'm just figuring, okay, pretty good rodeo seats. Okay, so I'm not going to knock anything down. Let's say that this right here is the arena. Here is the where they start, and here's where the grand entry comes out, and they turn around, and they start doing the deal. His seats are right there, box 1B. So when I say that they're good seats, they're great seats. I mean, it's a shame that there's somebody in front of us, but we're up above them anyway. But it's the second best set of best seats in the entire house. So He says, and anytime that you want to go to the rodeo, just let us know if you want to bring anybody else. I'm not, rodeo's 26 nights. I can't use all the tickets. So anyway, I said, if you ever have the ranch rodeo tickets available, I've got a friend who'd love to use them. He said, I throw them away every year. I throw them away every year. I said, so could I have Saturday night? He said, take Friday and Saturday. Take the whole box, 6 seats. I call Larry. So here he goes from being kicked out of the nosebleed of the grandstands to having the best seats in the house because of a God wink. Because an act of God, because they're working with me. I mean, once again, they're friends. I used to play tennis with them. So, I mean, I've known these guys forever. And so God puts me in a position. I could either say, oh, what a shame. I'll throw away the tickets. Yeah, just go ahead and throw them away. Or I can be listening. Say, I got somebody who values those tickets. And so they go to the deal the first time, and Kerry calls me the next day, and he said, well, it was terrible. I said, what was terrible? He said, the parking space was 37 steps from the seats. He says, I was hoping for better. But the fact is that by listening and paying attention, no greatness on my part. Once again, Max Churchill had the seats, and then now this last, in Dickey's Arena, he gave them the tickets again. And they got to go in Dickey's Arena for the Ranch Rodeo. Now, they're not down there. It's a different seat, but they're incredible seats. But that happens when you're listening, if you're trying to be not only an active listener, but an active giver. And so in this case, the guy, he was going to throw them away. So it's not that I convinced him to give me something of his value. Mattress Mack, y'all ever heard of the guy that every now and then maybe bets on a ball game and tries to give away free furniture to people in Houston at Gallery Furniture? So he wrote this book called Always Think Big. I should have brought a copy of it. So I read it, like 15 years ago, maybe more like 16 years ago. And so I read it, and it's talking about, all his lessons about business, but he talks about think big. And so I love the book so much, and he talks about how he's at the store every night until 9 o'clock when it closes. So I did work for Alan Samuels, Katie Dodge. And so I'm leaving there, but this time I'm living in Waco. So I thought, well, I can go back through Bryan College Station, or I could take a chance and get at 8:45 Gallery Furniture, call Max Bluff and see if he's there. And I did, and he was. And so I said, the parts I love most about your book, and I quoted scripture and verse from 3 different places, so it wasn't like I just read one paragraph. I said, I love where you said this, I love where you said this, and I love where you said this. And I said, and you're just so right about all of it. And so I said, I need to buy 10 copies of the book and have you autograph them. I want to give them to friends and people that I work with. And I said, then I'm going to probably come back and buy more. I said, this is not the last time you're going to see me. So anyway, we become friends. And so he ends up hiring me to do a couple special projects. He owns the West Side Tennis Club in Houston, or at least he used to. I don't know if he still does or not. He brought the Davis Cup there one year. He's a big-time guy. And so anyway, 2 years later, Rebecca, my fiance, was going to be the incoming chair for the HEB Chamber of Commerce. And so I asked Mac, I said, if we have 24 board members, could I get 24 autographed books? I'll buy them. And if I gave you the name of the person, would you individualize each one when you write? So don't just say, best wishes, Mattress Mack, but literally put something about each of these people. And I said, sure. So we go down and get it, and talking to him, and we said, if you're ever available, we'd love to have you come down and speak at one of our luncheons. And he said, sure. So we gave him a date, and he came up. Now you got to realize, he flew up in a private plane at his expense with no fee from us at all, no reimbursement, no nothing. So he does that. And so then he gets through. So now here comes the question, where's the relationship going to go? I could take him to the airport and say, hey, thanks so much. Have a great life. But 2 things happen. Number one, we stop at a Walgreens. He said, you got to stop at a Walgreens. Why? I need some lifesavers. So I go, I get a little tube of lifesavers. He said, no. He said, I need lifesavers. I don't know if he's a diabetic or not. I hope he's not. But so I a couple times a year send him 2.5 pounds of lifesavers. And man, he loves it. And that keeps our relationship going. And so he gets through speaking to us, and he said, I've got some time to kill. Can you drive me around and show me some furniture stores? I'd kind of like to see what furniture stores are doing here. I'm going, and this is the guy who has the #1 sales per square foot of any furniture store in America. And so I said, yeah, I can. So we go in, we're looking at 2 or 3, and we go to this one furniture store, and the guy immediately recognizes him. And so he's giving us the walkthrough, and he says, but here's what I'm proudest of. And he goes up and he opens the stuff over the warehouse. He says, do you know what you don't see out here? you don't see any of our logos on those trucks because we use third-party people to do all of our deliveries. And we save an extra 3% on the bottom line by not having our own trucks. So as Mac and I are leaving, he says, are you thinking what I'm thinking? Okay, see, I broke something again. Hold on a second. I want to make sure that this thing, okay, I'm going to try. Okay. I may not be able to get back up. Okay. I've only broken 2 things today so far, but we're not done. So anyway, he says, what have you noticed that was kind of stupid? I said, it seems to me that for customer service, you would want to be doing the deliveries with your own people than have a third party do it, because the third party doesn't care. They want to get in, drop it off, and get out. And he said, well, actually, it's even better than that. He said, our #1 salespeople are our delivery people. So we come into your home, and we deliver the bedroom suite. They notice the cracked panel on the TV. So they say, you know, we've got that same TV on sale for $4.99. We could have it delivered. I can have it delivered here in the next hour. And he said, the add-on business that we get by having our own delivery people, he said, that's the most expensive 3% that guy was saved. And so, you know, you just penny save, whatever the saying is. Anyway, the guy was just done. And but that's part of how smart that Mac is. So then I wanted to have him speak at this Northeast Leadership Forum annual award luncheon 2 years ago. And so I called him up, and he said, you know, I just can't do it. I got so much going on. He said, I've now opened 2 other locations. I just don't have the time. I said, that's fine, not a problem. Send him the Lifesavers. And I said, with a note that says, thanks so much for considering. I look forward to seeing you again soon. He calls me that day and says, when do you want me? Though I wasn't trying to do it to get him, but because I was trying to show sincere appreciation, which is a Dale Carnegie tenet, by the way, by showing sincere appreciation and respect for the man, he calls me back and says, name your date and I'll be there. Now, when he showed up in a Citation jet. And as I was talking to people at the airport later, they said that's a $10,000 ride from Houston and back. And he didn't. And we did offer $3,000, which he let us pay to his daughter's nonprofit that did things for special needs children. And so, but he said, don't worry about the expense of the deal. I think that he's got some pretty good friends that he might have talked him into loaning him the deal. But anyway, that's the relationship with Mattress Mack. I mean, so that's interesting things that happen. Aslam Khan is the owner of Falcon Holdings. He owns 300 restaurants. He owns, I think, 150 Church's Chickens. He owns all of Piccadilly cafeterias that's all in Louisiana. He owns it all. Not a franchisee, owns it. He owns Carl's Jr.'s and whatever the other one is in Oklahoma. He owns a lot of Long John Silver's and a lot of A&W, 300. And plus he does back office work for another 200. So I mean, this guy's the big time guy. And so I was talking to him yesterday. We hadn't talked to him in a while. Now I always take him to exotic fruit. So we're talking, and he says, "Do you notice that I'm not coughing?" Because he was like, always like that all the time. I said, "Yeah, I noticed what's going on." He said, "I had my lung replaced. I had a lung replaced." He said, "I had a bad lung." He said, "I've been at home for a year now." And I said, "Well, I'm glad you told me because I was wanting to come bring you some of your fruit." He said, "Well, I'm not allowed to see people." He said, "But I'll see you." And he said, "We'll just have to do it out on the back porch." And he said, "We'll both need to wear a mask." But he said, "Yeah." He said, "If you'll come." So I'm going to be there at 2 o'clock on Friday with his fruit. And but this is now. Here's what I'm going to do for him. This is a guy that had nothing. I mean, he was first member of his family to go to school of any level. There were no toilets in his little village. He had to walk through the jungle as a child with wild animals, get to the river, which was shoulder high, take off his clothes, carry them above his head, ford the river, wipe himself off. Oh, watch out, there it is again. And then put the clothes back on and then go to school, then repeat it on his way home. So anyway, he does all these things, and he keeps on doing that. He ends up becoming the general manager of the American Embassy in Pakistan, and comes to the United States, and for some reason he wants to go to work for Church's Chicken. I don't know what it was, but he did. So he goes and he interviews for this job as a manager, and he said, "I realized I was in trouble when I saw that I was better dressed than the man interviewing me." He did get the job. So he came back the next day, dressed very casually, and got a job, and he was cutting chicken in the freezer. He said, freezing to death. But he said, but I did it. He said, 3 years later, that guy's working for me. And he said, and now, 20 years later, he's still working for me. I've been very fair to that man. Now, let me tell you what this guy does. Every year, he takes his top 10 performers, gives them 49% of their stores, and makes them millionaires overnight. He right now, he's working on a bridge. He has given the money to build 12 roads in Pakistan, poor areas. He has given the money to build a bridge. So my offer to him on Friday, I'm hoping that none of y'all know him, is I'm going to say, not only are you the example of what, do y'all know what the Horatio Alger Award is? It's for somebody who started with nothing and not only achieved much, but then also have given it away. I'm going to say, you're not only the example of the Horatio Alger Award, but I will write your nomination for free because he's that special. I'm not asking for money for the deal. He's a special person who deserves something like that. That's what influence is. I'm not doing it for him to give me any business. I mean, it was act of God that Hobbs Blighted Fibers gave me $130,000. That was never the plan. I took it. I'll tell you, I took it. I deposited the checks. But that's not what I'm doing it for Oslam for. He deserves it. Somebody needs to do it, and I'm shocked that nobody's done it for him yet. So, as there's people in your life that you recognize deserve recognition, and you can help them achieve it, then as you can be a catalyst for that, that's a great thing to do. I'll kind of go through a bunch of these things. I know we have till noon, but in case we want to get out early. A few of the things, Cleburne Chamber of Commerce, when I brought Jerry Clower here in 1982, 83, it was 83 and 84, we had no intention of bringing him. We had no intention of doing a show. I go to Nolan River Mall, talking to the mall manager in November about our budget for the coming year. So this is an example of being committed to excellence. So I said, so let's kind of work on your budget. She said, I'm not spending a dime for the first 6 months. And neither are your car dealers, and neither are the feed stores, because WBAP is coming down to do an ag show. So what? She said, WBAP is going to come down here, and everybody's committing, so your first 6 months is going to be terrible. And so I said, well, why don't you tell them that you're going to do your ag show with me? And they said, well, why would we do that when we can do it with them? I said, how much benefit do you get on a radio station who reaches Arizona and who reaches Kansas, who reaches everywhere? How many people are coming from Kansas to buy something from your mall? Matter of fact, how many people are coming from Dallas to buy anything at your mall? 0. I said, the fact is, you've got 99% waste in their signal. It's an incredible radio station, a valuable radio station, but it's a great radio station for Coke and Pepsi, and for Mrs. Barrett's bread, and for Goodyear tires. But it's not real good for a local mall or the local car dealership in a small town. People aren't going to drive. You'll get some drive down here to buy a Dodge, but you're not going to be getting 50 or 100 a month to justify that. So anyway, I go back and I talked to my dad, and George Marty is there. Yeah, a lot of y'all knew George. And so I said, I may have overloaded my mouth. And I said, so what do we do? We called Tommy Tatum, who was the county extension agent at the time. So what do? We got to create an ag show. So we got to have some kind of entertainment. And so we, through a lot of conversations, we settled on Jerry Clower. Once again, this was never intentional. It was never supposed to happen. Well, by the time it was all said and done, then the next year Jerry comes, and Jerry has such a great time. At the end of the deal, he commits to coming back the next year, because I'd invite him back the next year. He commits to doing his album on MCA Records the next year, and he does. And so, because the thing that happened, this is what we have to realize, magical moments happen. And they're not always yours, but if you see where they are, those are seeds planted that you can sow, that you can reap. So we bring Jerry in. He comes and he does an appearance at the mall, about 45 minutes. And then I'll take him to the Sandmar Motel, which, by the way, and I was telling Stacy this, in 1983, Sandmar Motel honeymoon suite with tax, how much do you think it was? $34.23. No, $34.24. I'm $34.24. And so anyway, he goes to the Sandmar Motel and he's resting because he's going to have to do 2 shows. We did a banquet for 4-H and FFA with all the proceeds going to the 4-H and FFA kids. So we weren't reaping all the money. We were sharing it. So anything that the 4-H and FFA kids sold, they got to keep. And so then we absorbed the cost of the banquet and everything like that. So anyway, I'm sitting next to Jerry. And I'm aware that every February he does an album. And so I said, if you want to come back next year, we'd love to have you come back and do our album next year. So that's what I'm saying to him at the banquet. But before that, he's at the motel and gets knocked on the door. I didn't knock anything over. So anyway, he answers the door, and it's a sheriff's deputy. Said, Mr. Clower, there's a sequestered jury here because there's been a murder trial going on, and they're deliberating the punishment phase. And these people, they can't come to your show tonight. It would mean so much if you could come say a few words to them. He said, well, have you checked with the law? He says, it's okay with that. He says, well, let me call the man at the radio station. I was the man. He said, let me call the man. He had no idea what my name was. Let me call the man at the radio station and see what he says. So he calls me. I said, sure, you go right ahead. I think that's humanitarian. It's wonderful. So he said, I didn't just go in and encourage him. I did him a full 45-minute show. That's who Jerry Clower was. And so he tells that story when he's he didn't tell it at the banquet, but then we had the other show in the Performing Arts Center. We were the first event in the Performing Arts Center. Sold the thing out 2,200 seats. So he's telling that story, and he says, and I'll never be the same after being in Cleburne, Texas, and because it just touched him so much about the jury. And he said, the man has said, so I'm the man again, the man said that I've been invited back for next year, and he said, so I'm going to call my agent. We're going to send a memorandum to MCA Records. We're going to record my next album right here live in Cleburne. Shocked me half to death. I had no idea he was going to do that. But things like that happen when you're doing the right thing. But the magic moment was the jury. I can't tell you we would have gotten the album if it hadn't been for that. Now, our payback to Jerry. So what do you do when somebody's coming and doing something like that for you? What did I do that cost me zero? It cost me zero, but that excites Jerry. We called 120 companies that had those little trailer signs in front of their businesses. 120 of them welcomed Jerry Clower coming into town when he came in for the album. And it was he said, I want to do it now. I don't want to wait till tomorrow. I'm ready to do it right now. This is the most incredible town I've ever been in my life. So that's what you want people to be thinking about you and about your company. What can you do to be, it cost me zero to do that. I didn't have to buy a trailer, sign, or anything. I just had to have members of my team call people to get it done. Zero. So that's what you look for. And you also, you're going to look forward to meeting people. John Sledge, the old cardio that passed away, he'd come into my office every Monday morning, would talk for a few minutes, and he'd take a piece of paper and write down his commercial, and he'd do it. But if you talk to John about remembering names, he said, as soon as somebody says, hi, my name is, he said, I heard birds sing. He said, I have no idea if it was a male name or a female name or if it was a no name or whatever, bird's name. He said, I heard birds sing. The last thing I heard was their voice, not a single thing. And so there's a real skill to that. And so you've got to kind of find it. There's a lady named Sandy Langford who became Miss Ford Country. She came to TCU. One of my fraternity brothers was from Graham, and he had claimed that he had dated her in junior high in Graham. And he was way bigger than me, and not athletic or anything. And you're going, there ain't no way that a girl that good looking, she ended up marrying Johnny Rutherford's brother, so I mean, a NASCAR driver, so I mean, it's beautiful. And so there's no way my dad's going to be dating that guy. So she comes to the deal, and she's meeting all of us and everything. And so I see her 4 or 5 years later, and they're having the grand opening of Right Ford Tractor. They'd redone the building or something like that. And so she's there for it. And so Miss Ford Country, Sandy Langford. So I go to see her. I said, Sandy, you're not going to remember me at all, but my name is, she says, you're John Fletcher. You're a lambda guy from TCU. Johnny Riggs broke my heart in the 8th grade. Boom. And I wasn't one of the officers. I was an average guy. She knew the name of every single person. Now, that's a gift, and that's a rare gift. But some people have it. Most of us don't. Most of us hear birds sing. But whenever you can, try to work on that. The Dale Carnegie course teaches you that what you want to do if you're meeting somebody is you want to be able to visualize. Now, it's tough when you're meeting 20 people. But if you're meeting one person at a time, visualize what their name is. So they asked us in Dale Carnegie, come up with the way that people would look at you. It's clever enough that it makes them smile. You think that they're smiling because they like you. They're smiling because of the crazy image. They say, okay, John Fletcher, what are you going to do? I'm standing in a toilet. That's the John. And I've got my arrow, and the feather part of the arrow is the Fletch. And so I'm putting the feather on the arrow, so I'm John the Fletcher. And so if somebody envisions that, they're going to kind of smile when they see that, when they get moving forward. The other things, Bob Tallman, the rodeo announcer. I met him. I took my daughter and her fiance at the time to rodeo in Belton. And so she says, that's the rodeo announcer. He was over to the side working on some of his notes. And I said, well, I've always wanted to meet him. So we went over on it, and I introduced myself, introduced them. Well, that little thing led to me 2 years later calling him up, because he gave me his number, and hiring him to do the endorsements for the Allen Samuels Dodge dealership in Katy. We did that for several years, and then Ag Texas Farm Credit calls him, and they said, we want you to do the endorsements for us. He says, great. He said, I work real well with John Fletcher, so let's use him. They said, we already have an ad agency. And he said, goodbye. And he said, if you're going to use me, you're using John Fletcher. And so they called me up, and I got the account through that, all because I went and met him at the rodeo. And then one of the guys who had been at Ag Texas went to Expedition Royalty that buys royalty rights out in the Big Spring area. And they were for 2 years our biggest client, because they're sitting running so much radio out there, because we ran a lot of feel-good radio. The first commercial would talk about Salvation Army, it would talk about the Junior League Charity Ball, it would talk about the Silver Wings Ball, and it would talk about high school football, and the back 30 would be a branding message. And it was just so cool, because the guy who we were working with said, people know us now faster than I've ever been known in a market. He said, it's because of the radio, the way that you've developed these community partnerships. So the way that you give, and to run a radio commercial is 2:30s instead of a 60 costs the same. And so you do it the right way, you show your heart, and you show the people that you're trustworthy and that they want to do business with you. Find joy in helping others. I'll hit just a few of these. George Marty created the Marty Foundation and has helped hundreds, if not thousands, of kids from Johnson County go to college and trade schools. I mean, what an incredibly generous man that he was. Charlie Perkins barbecued. Were any of y'all around a long time ago? He closed this restaurant one day a year for the Bean Supper, what was then called the Johnson County Associated for Retarded Citizens. It would be a different name now. But anyway, he didn't have to do it, but he was on a mission to do it. And he showed that it was about more than barbecue. One year I chaired it. If any of y'all have not cooked pinto beans before, I didn't know that when the pinto beans come in a big bag that they have rocks in them. And so we had to pick them by hand. And when you're sitting there doing enough to feed probably about 1,500 people, that's a lot of bags. And that's a lot of hunching over to do. But I thought it was, oh yeah, I had no problem, just pour the bag. No, you can't do that, people will be eating rocks. I said, there ain't no rocks in there. Yeah, there are. You can break some teeth that way. So I didn't know if I was going to chair that, but I fell for it again the second year. But anyway, but it happened. But the fact was, he did that. Grandview Bank sends their zebra strings. Every kid in Grandview Elementary School has to play a stringed instrument 1 hour a day, every single day of the whole school year. It's called the zebra strings. They take I think it's the fifth graders, their oldest kids, and they go to Branson, Missouri every year. Now, not last year with COVID, but prior to that, they go to Branson and they play in like 3 or 4 performance halls, and they get to go to water parks and other stuff like that. We did a deal a year and a half ago, and we hope to do it again this spring. There's a group called Celtic Woman. You've seen them? Well, they've got a violin player. And so when I saw that, I called, or I emailed, because they're obviously in Ireland, and reached their publicity people, a girl named Katie. And so we set it up for the kids to get to come up for the rehearsal, for the sound check. And so the ladies came out, and the kids even played 3 songs for them. And then somebody gave the money, I think the bank and somebody else gave the money for the kids to go to the performance. Well, if it happens this year, we're working on, because both groups, their group and the Zebra Strings, both play a version of Amazing Grace. And there's a chance the kids may get to go on stage for that one song this year. I've already been in touch with the guy. He said, let's touch base in February. Let's make sure that the tour is going to happen. We've still got to wait on COVID. But that's interesting. But when you got somebody like Grandview Bank that has a heart like that, that says, these kids, this is a once-in-a-lifetime thing. And then they get to go meet those ladies, and they were just so wonderful and so nice and so encouraging. And it was actually the lady that plays the violin that said, we need to get you on stage with us next time. I mean, we didn't ask for it, they offered it. And so, so I'm talking to their road manager, and he said, yeah, I heard it. Yeah, she offered it. He said, let me see what we can do. But they're just as nice as they could possibly be. A friend of mine he's a banker. He's not one of my clients, but he's leaving today from South Lake to go to Nashville. He's going to go see a performance with Vince Gill and Amy Grant. And so I said, well, here's some other things that go on in Nashville, some concerts at that time. And here's a guy that I can connect you with. He's a moderate friend. We're not great friends. We've never had dinner, never had lunch together or anything like that. But it's something I could give them the information. I had the information. I've got connections to Nashville. Why not help somebody rather than not? Yeah, it's just, you know, what you do. It's finding joy in helping other people. One of the things that happened, earning respect and trust, Alan Samuels, I had just been working with him for a month. And so that's in that early dating stage, I guess you would say, of a work relationship. And so the Channel 10 KWTX TV calls and says, we've got Classroom Champion sponsorship is coming. Channel 8's done it for years, Scholar Athlete of the Week. And so it's $13,800. Here's the number of commercials you get, the number of promos and this and that, and you get to speak at a banquet and all that. And it's first come, first served. Whoever, if it tells you how long this ago was, whoever faxes in the agreement gets it. And once you send it, it's non-cancelable. So I'm sitting there going, this is, you know, Alan has just been here for 5 months, bought the dealership and started operating in September. Great time to be doing this. So I call for him, and he's not there, he's on vacation. So where is he? Well, nobody calls Mr. Samuels when he's on vacation. When he goes on vacation, he works really hard. When he's on vacation, he's on vacation. Nobody calls him. So I can give you to our service director, Leon Lester, who's his number 2 guy. So I go to see Leon, and I say, Leon, the station mispriced. It's worth $39,000. It's $13,800. We have all these commercials. You get this, that. It's branding, it's identity. You're launching your brand. It's all these perfect things. And what do you think? He says, well, I talk to him every day. He calls me. He said, I bet he'll do it. I said, do you feel good about it? He said, I feel really good about it. So I signed the paper and sent it in. So I called Leon the next morning. I didn't want to do it. Now, you might get an empty feeling in your stomach when you just got on the hook for $13,800 and you have just disrupted a relationship with a 1-month client. And so I said, what do you mean? And I could envision what happened. Leon's got other things on his mind, and the conversation goes like this. Fletcher called, and it came by and said something about some TV deal. It cost $13,800, kids and football and stuff. You don't want to do that, do you? I didn't think so. I'll tell him no. That's how the conversation went. I can almost hear what that was. So anyway, I go to see the receptionist, Missy, and I said, I need to speak to him. She said, I can't give you his number. And she had one of those big paper blotters that you'd have back in 1990 on her desk. And so I said, is his number anywhere on here? And she said, yes. And she kind of looks over to the right-hand side, and I see something that has a 1 in front of it and an odd deal that's not a regular zip code or area code. I said, if I looked in about this area, she said, I ain't saying anything. And I said, so I called him. He said, Fletcher, I said, let's say it together. Nobody calls Alan Samuels when he's on vacation. He said, what do you want? And he's a good guy, but he was on vacation. He works hard. I said, did Leon talk to you about this Classroom Champion thing? He said, yes, it's something about $13,800 and kids and football and this and that. And he said, you don't want to do that, do you? And he said, no, I don't want to do it. I said, well, here's what's going to happen. When you come back from vacation and you see the Ford dealer on it, you're going to fire me for not having the guts to stand up to you and tell you that you're wrong. Because here's what it all means. And I gave through every single thing. And I said, they mispriced it. It's worth $39,000. They screwed up. And so we need to sign this thing with an automatic renewal for the next year because they're going to jack the price up sooner or later. So anyway, he says, okay, go ahead and do it. And Fletcher, in the future, when you feel this strong about something, you don't even need to call me. This was our moment of truth. With anybody, any customer, whether it's a real estate, whether it's any kind of IT or anything you're doing, certainly in the faith situation, there's a moment of truth. And I could have lost the client just as easily as I got him. But my thought process was, if he wasn't going to do this, he was the wrong client for me anyway. Because my clients all get involved in their community. So if he wasn't going to do this, it would be a painful way to find out. But anyway, so we did it. I grew him from 4 to 12 dealerships. He sold out for $100 million. He was happy. He passed away, and his funeral was last April, and he had asked for me to be I did the eulogy. So we were close. You learn from a loss. I produced the Baylor radio broadcast for football and basketball for 9 years. And so in the middle of that, I thought, I think I've got something here that could become a bigger system. What if instead of just doing Baylor, what if we package Baylor, Texas Tech, Oklahoma, and Oklahoma State? Because we're never going to get Texas and Texas A&M because they're locked into their guys. But what if I could get those 4? So I've already got a long-term deal with Baylor, so no problem. So I go to Texas Tech, and we're out there talking to the guy, and but he's got somebody he's been with for several years. And he said, I got to have a real reason to leave him. And he said, but I will tell you this, we carry our broadcast on WBAP right now. We pay them a fee. And he said, we're not going to do that again. We're not going to pay stations to carry our games. So I don't get the deal. He stays with his own guy. So then I go to Baylor and I said, hey, our station, K-Sky in Dallas, 660 AM is a great daytime signal, but nighttime you can't hear it in Tarrant County. You can't hear it much anywhere. WBAP, you can hear in 90% of America at night. When we go and play next year, that is that time. When we play Miami next year, if it's a nighttime game, you can hear the broadcast in the stands. It's that kind of a signal. And so they gave me approval to go after it, thinking that I was a dog chasing a car, that there was no chance to get it. And so we keep on going through the whole deal, and I'll be darned if we don't get it. Because what happens is on the 12th meeting, because A&M, first of all, they said in the first meeting, Baylor makes no sense for us. TCU is right across town. I went to TCU. I'm still against my alma mater. But hey, it's my job. And so I said, yes, you say that we don't make sense, but at this point right now, what they're going to do is the station is going to give you the inventory and make you go sell it. And you're not going to sell it. And you're going to have all, and so they'll try to sell it, but it won't. Anyway, it's all kind of mess. We're going to write you a check. We think that it's worth $6,000 a game, and we'll write you a check. We'll pay you $2,500 a game for basketball. By the way, here's where relationships come in. The general manager of WOAI in San Antonio was a guy named John Barger, one of George Marty's greatest friends. And John Barger owed a lot to my father because John was about to get fired in Austin, and my dad told them they couldn't fire him. And so John said, I will always owe anything that I achieved to your father for saving that job. So I called him and I said, you're friends with John Hare, the guy who's the president of WBAP. And yeah. I said, what do I need to know about him? He said, he's a very exact guy. He said, if you're going to offer $6,000 a game, offer $6,112. He likes precise numbers. Instead of $2,500, do $2,511 per game for basketball. He said, if you do that, you'll get his attention. If you do $6,000 and you do $2,500, he'll just scan right past you. So anyway, we're going over all these things. I've got those exact numbers. I'm feeling good. We're in our 12th meeting, and I feel that we've got it. It's down to us and TCU. Makes sense. It's right across town. By the way, the interesting thing, I came up 12 times in 12 weeks. Even TCU came up one time, and it was phone calls and faxes. Didn't even show up a second time. Same with University of Texas, same with Oklahoma, same with Texas A&M. Never came back again. So we had, just like the whole WACO thing with Coca-Cola, people taking it for granted. TCU took it for granted. And so on the final day, young lady Rebecca from our office says, okay, here's what I'm going to do to kind of break the tie. They're going to make their decision tomorrow, right? I said, yeah. So she said, Baylor plays in this Southwest Conference, it's the old conference. It plays women's basketball tonight at Reunion. I'm going to have the cheerleaders, they'll be probably staying up there. I'll have them show up. We'll go to the radio station tomorrow morning. We'll have somebody in the bear costume. We'll go rah, 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 stuff like that. Have a lot of fun with their morning show. Do something like that. Well, they lost that night. And so it was spring break. So all those girls went everywhere. And so Rebecca gets the bear costume in Waco at midnight. And she calls me and says, we got a problem. We lost. And I said, so what do you do? She said, don't worry, I'll take care of it. What do you do? Just don't worry about it. I'll take care of it. Don't you love having somebody on your team who says, I'll take care of it, and I don't even have to know what it is because I trust them? So anyway, she starts talking to her mother about it. Her mother lives in Arlington. She said, this is what I'm going to be doing. And her mom says, well, I'll wear the costume. And so, really? Yeah. And keep in mind, her mother is the niece of Dutch Meyer, for whom the TCU legendary coach. So anyway, really weird conflicts going on there, but Rebecca had gone to Baylor. So anyway, they go up there, and Mark Davis is on the air. And so it's a few years back, obviously, now it's like 1996. And so they go in there, they find their way to break when Mark Davis is getting a cup of coffee during a commercial break. And so, well, what are y'all doing? And her mom's got the costume. Rebecca's got a sterling silver tray with bear claws on it. I mean, perfect thing to be doing for the Bears. And so he says, well, this is too great. You got to come in. And he puts them on the air. And her mom's growling and stuff. I mean, it's too cool. Well, John Hare, the president of the company, goes in and says, what's going on here? And so Mark Davis says, we're having a great time. So anyway, Hare calls me the next day and said, I cannot justify to the people in New York about this. He said, We've met 12 times. I can't tell you how many times y'all have been in and you've been out. But I'm telling you, if you ever get right down to it, it was the donuts. Because the donuts showed us it was a relationship and not a vendorship. If you just showed up and wrote a check, we're a vendor. But we also put David Hatchett, one of their sports guys, in the broadcast booth. He was actually the color guy. And so all the steps that we went to along the way, we did all this stuff. We're paying them in advance. We're doing everything. But it's the donuts. You have to understand, what are the donuts that you're doing that separates you from your competition, that make you stand out? Let me just try to go past these, just hit a couple. You know, it's, you think about, one thing that's really important is introducing people that you trust to people that you trust. Don't just refer anybody. If somebody says, hey, I want you to introduce me to so-and-so. I want to meet Robert Stewart. Well, I need to know that person and know that they're legit. I don't want to send somebody to Robert only to find out later that they're flake. That's the worst thing for my brand. That's the worst thing for your brand. So you've got to make sure, and I try to refer to it as introductions and not referrals. I would be glad to introduce you. I'm not referring you, but I'm glad to let you guys draw your own conclusions. Post and comment on social media, especially LinkedIn or Facebook for business. I don't do Facebook, I do LinkedIn. But with this, don't just do, I like, I support, I love. Put a comment in there. Do something that makes yourself stand out. If you're just sitting there doing those things, you might as well not done it. Make yourself stand out, especially if there's somebody that you want to follow, that you want their business, or you want their respect, you want their influence to work for you, then take the time to show them that you care. Another thing is, I like to use GIFs, I've heard them called GIFs, or video instead of photos, because the algorithms love video. So if you do that more than photos, that helps. Participate in leadership programs. How many of y'all have been in leadership in Cleburne?
Fantastic program.
Wonderful program. That's great. So there's a next, then of course if you have a chance in Leadership Fort Worth, there's another level called Leadership North Texas, which is it's basically the graduate level. It's for the people who've been in a local leadership program and want to go to the next level. It's incredible. I mean, it's a regional deal. It's done by the North Texas Commission. It's for heavy hitters. And then if you've got a leadership program in your industry, your trade association, anything that you can do there that helps further grow your influence. And then I told you some ways how I give. Here's what some people have done for me. Stretch Smith, Cal Pasture Bank. I saw this letter just the other day. When we were entering Waco with that, with the new radio station, Stretch wrote a letter to the guy who was the CEO of the largest local bank, and said, there's a gentleman named Earl Fletcher coming to town with a radio station that you're going to want to advertise on. Here's what he's done in Cleburne, and here's what he's going to do in Waco. You will be well served. They were our first ad agency buy. The day after that letter, we got a call from their ad agency. We had not even solicited the ad agency yet. We want to be your first advertiser on that radio station because of Stretch Smith writing a letter. Jack Hewlett, when the Dodge dealer in Cleburne, or in Waco, we had made a proposal to do a big part of that It Tops, the Coke promotion, and we needed to have a vehicle to give away. And so the Dodge dealer, Sam Nay, good friend of Jack's, and so he calls him. And he says, you're not going to believe this crazy kid comes in and tells me about this, and this, and all that. And Jack asked, so did you do it? And he said, no. And Jack said, Sam, you screwed up. He said, you better call that kid back, and you better do it. They're going to be the #1 station within a year. And we were. And so anyway, your dad was a great advocate for us, and we'll never forget that. Alan Samuels bought at an auction, bought the junior cheerleader package for the final game of Grant Taft's career, home game against Texas, which he did beat Texas in, and gave it to my 10-year-old daughter. How loyal does that make me to Alan Samuels? I'll tell you how loyal it makes me to him. When I got a call, I guess 3 years ago, from the Chevy dealer in McGregor, and they said, I know you're not working for Alan anymore because I'm up here now, and they said, we'd like to hire you because we know that you would know how to compete against him. I said, I can't compete against Alan. I don't have any non-compete, but philosophically, he's been too good a friend. I can't do that. I said, thank you so much for thinking of me. And then they called back a couple other times, and I said, there's times that friendship trumps business. Believe me, I need the business, but I think that God would remember my short memory of loyalty. And so thank you so much, but I can't take it. And Don Jordan, our Wendy's franchisee, wins the award as the top Wendy's franchisee in America, large part because of marketing. and promotion and local presence. And so he takes my entire staff to Six Flags, has us close one day and pays for us all to go to Six Flags. I mean, things like that people do. You know, when you're recognized for having influence, your voice means more. It means that you know, your energy is contagious and you make a larger difference than you ever have. So make yourself valuable, memorable, resourceful, unselfish, and all the rest, and you're going to have more influence than you could ever possibly imagine. Are there any questions anybody's got? I know I went fast. I'll pass this around real quick. Okay, these are examples of the labels on our ice cream. Here you going? Oh, he doesn't really do that stuff. These are what some of the labels look like, and we've already made our first 30 flavors. So anyway, but they've all got to be fun. You know, no plain vanilla allowed. Can't do it. You know, one guy wants, I will let Rocky Road stand because it's kind of funky. But all the other stuff, I'm just not going to let it happen, just plain chocolate. So
I want to tell you a funny story. You talked about Jerry Clower.
Yeah.
In 1996, I was in a meeting in Charlotte, North Carolina, about 800 bankers. And it was a company that we use for software, and they just hired a new CEO to come in, and he was speaking to the group, and he was a big Jerry Clower fan. And he got up in front of the group and he started talking, and he had looked at the attendants, who all was there, where we were from, and he stopped and he goes, "There's somebody here from Cleburne, Texas." And he said, "I just want to know if you went to the Jerry Clower concert that was recorded in Cleburne, Texas." And that became a relationship I had with this guy.
Yeah.
And as long as he was CEO, I could call him if I needed something from the company. And he would call me and ask me, "How are they doing?" And it was all formed because of that. And I showed him the picture that I had of Jerry holding my daughter that was taken out there.
Relationships are everything. I got to tell you, you know, and you look at it and you go, "Oh, relationships, they can't be done." They are, because that's where people. I mean, you know, Jerry Casper, who I hadn't seen in 15 years, pops in, and I get to see him. You know, that I used to play golf with and everything, and he had been a customer when he was at Bell's department store. I mean, it's just good to be able to see people again. And now y'all may be, but I'm not getting younger. And I hope, but you know, I'm filling out the face so that I don't have wrinkles. So therefore, that's why you have the Twinkies and Ding Dongs and donuts. Any other questions? Anybody's got any other examples about growing influence?
I want to ask about your ice cream. Do you make it, or who makes it?
Milwaukee Joe's. You know,
Who is it?
Milwaukee Joe. They're actually, they have an location, they're in South Lake Town Square, and the guy's name is Sam, S-A-M, and if you'll come on, I'll give you his phone number. And but anyway, they make it in their Las Colinas plant, because they only have just a retail shop in South Lake. But the quick story on that is, I was in Canada for a tennis tournament. Once again, I was thinner at one point in time. And so we were playing on grass courts, and I got to tell you, I played in college, and I never got to play on grass courts. You know, I got to play on grass courts, I thought I died and gone to heaven. And so we have time between matches. It's a full week. You're playing for a week, even if you're losing, you've got another round going and all that. And so there's a little town called Duncan that's 5 miles from Cowichan Bay, where we were. And they go in there, and there's an ice cream shop called the Udder Guys, U-D-D-E-R, the Udder Guys. And this is what inspired me, because I go in there and I see all the flavors, and he said, "If you don't see anything that you like, tell me what you want and we'll have it tomorrow." That's pretty cool. So I'd come back every day. Yeah, that's how I got this thing. And so I come back every day, get a different flavor, and have him request one for the next day. So then on the final day, I said, "You know, I'm in advertising and public relations. I wonder if I could have these made for all my clients and have you ship the stuff to them." He said, "Sure, I can." So I come back to Cleburne. I'm sorry, to Waco at the time, and I'm telling the client, "Okay, start making me your list of your fantasy flavors and all that." So I called the guy and I said, "Okay, we're all set to go." And he said, "Well, we've got a problem." He said, "There's a dairy embargo from the United States now. We can't ship across the border." And he said, "Your federal government did that." I said, "What?" And so now I'm in panic. I've promised ice cream to everybody. I'm calling Ghirardelli Chocolate. They won't do it. I'm calling all these brands of ice cream. They won't do it. I go to Marble Slab. They won't do it because they're too regimented. But there's this little place called Anti something in Waco. What is it called? It's Anti something. And so I went to the guy and I was just lamenting. He said, "I can do it." And they've now been acquired by Marble Slab. And so it's part of that group now. And so yeah, and so he made it for me for the first 3 years until I moved up here. Then I found the people at Milwaukee Joe's, and yeah, they love it. I mean, I'm actually, you figure in December when their business is really off, I'm their biggest customer. I mean, you get an ice cream place and you get 30 degrees outside. I'm the only business they got that day. Think about it, and so I am in the month of December the largest customer of that company, just for 1 month. And but still, it's nice. So yeah, and like the guy, he called me and he said, okay, here's the status. He said, we've had a lot of prices go. Would you mind if we raise it $2 or $3? I said, go right ahead. It's not a problem. And what you guys are doing is great, and I'm just so thankful that y'all keep doing it every year. So yeah, but it stands out. People call me in the middle. Yeah, let me ask you this: think of what you give away. How many people call you in the middle of the year and ask you, "Are you going to put me on your list again for this year?" Because that's the call that I get. Am I spending enough to still be getting the ice cream? And the answer is always no. You need to spend more, and if you spend more, I think there's a chance you might get to still be on the list. And the other thing that I do is I've got this one guy who was our client, and he left, but he brought us a massive client. And I called him yesterday, and I said, I want to confirm your ice cream flavor. He said, well, I'm not your client anymore. I said, but you're a friend. I said, and you brought us all this business. I said, you're getting this ice cream till I die. And so you don't stop because it's about relationships. And so those people stay on. It's because this guy is a guy whose company has probably spent $300,000 with me in the last 4 years. So you think that I'm not going to give him, a little bit of ice cream? Absolutely, I'm going to give him ice cream. I also send ice cream to the lady in accounts payable, for the largest clients. I send it to her too, because she gets a bill and she sends a check the next day. And that's the other thing. One of my clients said, if you want to be influential with people, fast pay makes fast friends. And so there's enough people that will ride you for 30, 60, or 90 days. When you're talking, I've got we were doing production with Bob Tallman yesterday at the production studio. I get the bill at 3 o'clock, and at 3:05 I Venmo the payment to the guy. He loves me. He'll do whatever I want. And so I've got X number of clients that want the electronic payment real quickly. My graphic designer, same thing. Man, you get people really loyal to you when you are the fastest person paying, and somebody else has a bigger job, but it's going to take them 90 days to get the money. Who do you think is going to get moved up? It's you. Now that's relationships, and that's also business smarts. Anything else? And y'all may have a couple other stories that y'all want to share with me. What's an example that maybe one or two of y'all have got? That's a great example, though, Justin, about anything else about how you've seen something that came back for you. Anybody got something you want to share? Not all at once. That's okay. Don't worry about it. Thank y'all so much. I appreciate it, and hope that it was worth your time. And thank y'all for staying mostly awake.
We did collect.
Oh, good. Let's go to the drawing. Okay. We're going to see who's going to get the fantasy ice cream.
I want to say something, though.
Yes.
I've lived in Cleburne for 53 years.
Okay.
And I miss KCLE.
Well, I appreciate that. It just, it's a shame that it went away, and I would just say it didn't need to. What happens if you get a bad owner? When Moss sold it to this other guy, and I never met the guy, but he apparently didn't quite know what he was doing, and then that just messes up the radio station for anybody else coming back. Yeah, because there's no trade fair. You get it out. You get out of Granbury.
Jimmy Akins, the trade fair, and oh my God.
Well, he does it out of Granbury now. And he does it from his kitchen table. Doesn't have to go.
Really?
Yeah. Jimmy's a good friend. Jimmy and I started working at KCLE the same month, and so I know I look 39, but I'm really not. So, okay. Well, the Reverend Cooper Wise Morlock.
That's me.
That's you. You're going to be getting the fantasy ice cream, so you're going to need to let me know what you're wanting it to be.
Okay.
And so anyway, anybody else? Any other questions? Thank you all so much for coming. Have a Merry Christmas. Remember, for your IT, make sure whoever does your IT, consider letting them work some between Christmas in this holiday season and some you give them that time off in January. Do whatever you can, or at least have people monitoring. Don't let stuff go unmonitored, because that's when you find out that you lost everything.
I will say, to your point on that security, one thing that I do that's really beneficial is have a VPN on your computer.
Absolutely.
That encrypts your data online. And that's helped me. I've gotten significantly less spam calls on my
Right.
phone now from all of that, so
Right.
consider getting a VPN.
Let me give you one more tip. Do you have a marker I can show, put one thing up here? Don't worry, I'll give you an example. Okay, let's say that your favorite sport is golf. Okay, if you were to say, I need a password protocol because I can't remember my zillion passwords. So let's see if we found one. I haven't knocked you, that's perfect. Okay, here's an example. Let's say that your favorite, it doesn't even have to be your favorite game, but if you'll always remember the word golf, and let's say that you're wanting to do your Amazon password. Your password is going to be capital G, the number 0, LF dot, and it's Amazon with the ampersand, Z with the 0, N with a /. If you just did golf and Amazon without all these tricky things in here, the metrics on the computer can solve you in about anywhere from 1 to 15 seconds. This is 15 years for an automated system to figure you out. So every one of your passwords starts with golf, and every single one. You may have 200 passwords. Everyone starts with golf, and then dot. Now you get some of these like American Express. It won't let you use Amex or anything like that as part of the deal. So I just use card as part of that. And so, or whatever you want to use, but some of them won't let it use that company name. But if you do this, your odds of your email getting hacked are like 0. So, and that came from the FBI. I think he knows what he's talking about. He's the number one. When Microsoft gets hacked, he's the guy that gets the first phone call. He's that guy. So this will help y'all a lot and help y'all not have to worry about keeping that piece of paper that's got those 500 passwords. So that's my Christmas gift to y'all. And then you get the fantasy ice cream. Thank y'all. Justin, thanks for that story. Sure. That is so cool. I love that.
That guy, I mean, we traded
I
stuff.
spotted your card and worked with Ross.
Yeah.
We've done some work with you over the past year at Cooper.
Well,
It's
good.
How are you? I'm good. Good to see
I
you.
think many years ago.
I'm not serious. I'm an actor.
Yeah, from Chamber.
And I remember what you said.
Oh, I appreciate it. That was when Eddie Saylor fell off the stage. Because he's giving the Ward Campbell's standing there, and Eddie starts stepping back, and he falls off the stage. And that's
You
kind
said, if I remember correctly, you said, I feel like stealing,
yeah.
getting an award for something I love to do.
That's it. What do you love doing? I appreciate that. I remember stuff better than I do. Thanks so much. It was a real honor to be
I'm
here.
Patty Badger, by the way. I used to be a Pat
Okay. To Jay. Oh, as a matter of fact,
I remember I was at
I have a funny story about him.
with him.
That's right. I'll tell you real quick. So we're getting ready to play in the state semifinals down in Austin. So we're pre-recording today, the interview. And so we're talking about the season that and so Jay says, well, we all started, we played Honolulu early, we were down at we ran down where it was, and this and that. And he said, so
that's cool.
now we're going to play these guys. And he said, very good. He said, but they should have. And so he says that, and so then he said, okay, now I took the tape out and put it in my pocket. I said, what's that? I said, that's not why fun to have an athletic director as my best friend. And now I do. And so I still have the tape. I still have it. And so Robert Stewart asked me about a year ago, he said, do you have that? I said, yeah. He said, will you play it for me? I said, no, because you're a reporter. And I said, and you'll share it with people on social media. He said, you gotta look. And so I went to him one time and I played it, but not where he could record it. And but yeah, and Jay would, if everybody seemed he'd say, Fletcher, I said, never done that. And he said, you own that. Well, we tried to get him, because we honored them in 19 at the Railroaders game, but we're trying to get him. But I think it was bad health.
Yeah, he had at least one bad year. I don't think that's
Right.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah, and then Spiko, when you were in town, we tried. And so, no, he didn't come. But all the other guys, pretty much, all of them except the Jaggers came.
Why was it?
Yeah, no. Yeah. I don't know where he is now, but yeah, he's a heck of a guy too. I love that drop ball.
Of course.
I've got yellow jacket stories I never got into. Oh yeah. But thank you so much, Pat. It's so good to see you.
You too.
This is
Merry
fun.
Christmas.
And to you as well. Thank you. All right.
I just want to say thank you so much for coming. And
Oh, thank you.
I thought my background was marketing, and I was in newspaper and radio work for Baylor Athletics.
Oh, really?
Tennessee for a while.
Wow.
I did, and I loved it. And I thought, that's the first thing I noticed when I came to Cleburne. I've only been here 8 months. And I
Yeah.
thought, they need a small town radio.
Yeah, they do. We had one. We had a good one at one time. I'm in Arlington. They kicked me out of here. They ran me out of here on a rail. Yeah. So.
Well, we enjoyed it. I enjoyed everything today. Good information and lots of circles that you have. And I thought, I remember that sphere. I need to gain that here.
That's it.
Being here. But I've only lived here for 8 months. And I've only been a student for 3 years.
Yeah.
So I'm still learning. But thank you for all the.
Thank you.
all
You
the
guys appreciate it. Thanks a lot. Yes, sir.
Cooper Moreline.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So let me know what you want to give you my card. Let me know what you want that flavor to be, and it'll take me a few days to get made, and then I'll be coming down this way, and I can just drop it by or something like that, or put on a bus or do something. Here's my card.
Excellent, thank you very much.
So yeah, so let me know the next couple of days if you want to give it to somebody, or if you want it for your family, whatever. But it's a half gallon.
Wow, perfect,
You're
thank
welcome.
you, my wife will love it.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate all your South Lake references, I lived there for 3 years and worked there, and I really enjoyed it.
I'm going to tell you, I'm on the board of the chamber, and I love Peace Corps barbecue. I love it. That's right. Thanks so much, Cooper. I
Yes,
appreciate it.
thank you.
Yes, I'm John.
I'm Joy.
Great. Thanks so much for coming.
Thank you. This is Baylor now. Well, I would like to.
I use Canva to create a presentation.
Cool. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. That's wonderful. Do you have a card? I'll tell you what. Here, I'll give you mine, so you can just send me an email.
Yeah.
Let me do that.
Anyway, did you recommend membership?
Oh, absolutely. That's great. Oh, I love those.
Do you?
Oh, yeah. They're so handy to have. Thanks. One for me. This is great. Well, thanks so much. I appreciate it. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Which one you want the Go Giver or look at these? I've got. These are the God Winks books. This is the original book right there. This is when God Winks on Love. This is those ones on.
It's out here in our best.
Sure. Matter of fact, take this too. That's the Go Giver. You'll like that.
And I know you said that you have a lot of contacts and stuff. I didn't move to Texas fairly. I've been here only 3 years. And my boyfriend is coming over. We met in Michigan. He lives in North Carolina, but he's coming over for
Well, good.
Christmas. So,
Trying to just get away for a weekend or what?
whatever, just something fun.
There's a great bed and breakfast in Fort Worth. Send me your email and I'll tell you the name of it. I gotta find it. And there's also a good bed and breakfast in Granbury. There's a couple of good ones down there too. So send me an email and just say things to do, and I'll send you those.
Yeah, thank you. I'm really
Happy to do it. Thanks so much.
And
Okay.
I will send you some more information on.
Yes.
Yes. I might like to.
Okay.
He's the sightkeeper. He was
Yeah, that's great. It's gonna be next year. We don't have the date set yet. Looking forward to it. Thanks. Okay.
Okay, I think we need to get. Stacy's gonna take a picture.
Oh, that's right. Whoops, hold on. Let me get the sweat off my brow.
Well, I was afraid that he felt like, it would be different.
Here we go.
I'm just gonna put the card in.
That's it.
What? And what's your name? Take a couple. Joy. Okay.
Did you use the bin filter?
Yes.
Good.
Yes, absolutely.
I work part-time for Foster Funeral Homes. Do you know?
Oh yeah. He's a great guy.
And of course, I'm not even forever.
Oh, yeah.
But I do get, I'm in charge of the resolutions and everything.
Oh, cool. Oh, here's my card. So you got that.
Anyway, we did something, we started something several years ago. Me and I both were in Kingston. And we did a toy ride every year.
Yeah.
So she decided, I want to do something different. So we have a tree lighting at the funeral home and a toy drive the same night, and we have,
People drive through?
we have people drive through and
Yeah.
drop off their toys. We have, the culinary department comes and does hot chocolate, and some of the circles sit out.
It's a nice touch.
And, we have the fire department comes and brings the truck. We usually have the, SWAT, we usually have the SWAT truck, but it was broken down. That's why I said, oh, how we
It
don't
happens,
have to
yeah.
have it.
Sure.
You know, but I mean, it's really good. We didn't do it last year because of COVID.
Yeah.
But we let you drop off toys, but we didn't do all the other stuff.
Yeah.
And we have little kids dress up like elves and go out and get the toys and everything.
Yeah.
And I think it's really been really good
Yeah.
for them
Yeah.
and for King's daughters.
Absolutely.
And then we give everything to Operation Blessing.
That's cool.
So I think it's really, I think it's worked out really good, and, as far as like what you're saying about the giving and everything, I thought, that's showing, that's good, of course, they're very giving people.
Oh, I know they are. Perry's a good guy. Tell him all for me.
I will, they're wonderful people. And what did I do with
We had a lot of fun after they got to the state finals, we, had all of our sponsors from the broadcast, we played a softball game against them. And so, I was pitching, and so Spike's batting first, and so I had everybody get down on their knees. I said, Spike, you get one free pitch. And so I throw, and his eyes just got huge, and it was a grapefruit, and it exploded on his bat. He's like, what's that? Oh, man.
I haven't seen Spike in a long time. I see Dave so often.
Well, say hi to Dave for me, too. Yeah.
But Spike, I guess last time I was when Dave's mother-in-law passed away. And
Oh.
they came up and I was telling him, I said, really trying to get. Yeah, I know.
Wow, yeah, not far away.
But they moved to Georgetown.
Yeah.
He is one of the select baseball
Oh, yeah.
deals, and I said, keep his name in
That's
your,
it. That's it.
in your thing from us.
Absolutely. Thanks, Roseanne.
It's good to see you, John.
Thank
I
you.
want to thank you so much.
Oh,
That
thanks
was
for
really
coming.
Awesome. I'm Terry Wood.
So what kind of work do you do?
I'm a sales director at Mary Kay.
Oh, good.
19 years.
There you go. Yeah, so as you know, it's all about relationships.
Yes, and I thought it was interesting, the name of the book, because our most prestigious award once a year is the Go Give Award.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and it's voted on by our peers. And
Well, I mean, if I've got a note, here, take this one.
Aw, well, you are a giver.
Well-
And used to, I will say, this is just a little thing, thank you so much.
Sure.
I used to get uncomfortable, like, oh, I can't take, and one time this guy that he bought me a coffee or something like that, and I'm like, he said, here's $20, get me a coffee new. And I paid for it.
Yeah, you felt awkward doing it. Yeah.
And what he said was, you stole my blessing.
See, there you go.
And I'm like, oh, I never thought of it like
There you go.
that.
That's it. Yeah.
And so now I just say thank you very much.
Just say thank you. Yeah, because it is, because, people that have the spirit of giving, they want to give.
Yeah, and it's more blessed to give than receive.
And it
then
is.
you can steal it away if you don't receive it.
Yeah, that's it.
So thank you, and I really, really enjoyed it. Hope we see each other again. And
You bet.
Yeah.
Well, good. Best wishes with Mary Kay.
Okay, well, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, bye-bye.
Well, sorry that I almost tore down the wall unit.
I had just been sticking up for it. Oh, don't worry about those.
I do have to tell you a funny story about John Butler. Obviously, you wouldn't have known him, but we had a membership drive, and there was a contest, and whoever won, John and his wife would take that winner and their spouse to the petroleum club at Fort Worth for dinner. And so Red McVicker was the fire chief. He won it every year because everybody wants to be buddies with the fire chief. And so I'm one behind him going into New Year's Eve. And I'm at home with pneumonia. And so he knows, so he even talks to Butler and he says, well, I know I've got one because Fletcher's at home sick. From my deathbed, I called 2 of my advertisers and get them to join and send them in. And so McVickers is so excited on the first work day of the year. And Butler says, you didn't win. Fletcher sold 2 from his deathbed. And then I had the fire chief mad at me.
That's funny.
Funny how it all happens.
Yeah.
Well, here, let me give you one of these books. I'd like to, there's this book called When God Winks at You. And so let me give you this. Let me put a note in for you.
Appreciate that.
No. Whoops.
Nope, not that one.
No, I've got another one in the car. Let me get that.
Oh.
Not to. Yeah, I've got another one in the car. Well, it seemed to go okay.
Yeah, no, that was, yeah, that was good. There, who was it? Somebody said It's too bad he doesn't have any stories.
Yeah, that's it. Wind me up and just can't shut me up.